I turned my everyday skills into divine powers. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 126. Lord Wang's death was very strange. The sun was shining brightly, and Wang An had risen a little late. Last night's events had left him feeling uneasy. Even though Jiang Siren had placed restrictions and talismans in his room, he still fell asleep late. After all, Wang Yincheng had also been protected by talismans, yet he was still killed. Furthermore, he recalled Zheng Kang's assassination attempt. The county government office felt eerie and spooky. He had a constant feeling that his life could be lost at any moment. However, his nervousness seemed to ease with the rising sun. Gazing at the bright sunlight outside, Wang An breathed a sigh of relief, feeling more at ease. After all, even if someone wanted to harm him, they would surely act late at night. Therefore, daytime provided Wang An with a sense of absolute security. Jiang Siren was still meditating in his room, and the Shinran sect monks who had been on night watch had already gone back to rest and cultivate. Wang An ate breakfast, and went to the government office to begin his work. After all, he was busy selecting a site for the Shinran sect and raising funds to build a Taoist temple. Not long after, a Yamen runner entered and said, "Your Excellency, someone has just delivered a letter claiming to contain clues regarding the Wan family case. Take it." Wang An raised his eyebrows and waved his hand. The runner handed the envelope to Wang An and then withdrew. Wang An's eyes lit up, secretly delighted. He had never expected someone to deliver a clue. He opened the envelope with anticipation, then pulled out the paper inside, unfolding it and examining it. The paper contained no clues, but a poem. The wind whistles, the Yi river is cold, the warrior departs, never to return. Exploring the tiger's den, entering the dragon's palace, raising my head to the sky, my breath becomes a white rainbow. Wang An was bewildered and inwardly amazed when a figure burst from the paper, wielding a blade as swift as lightning, instantly severing Wang An's neck. Simultaneously, the figure vanished into thin air, and the paper in Wang An's hand burst into flames. The entire process took place almost instantaneously. Everyone in the courtroom had barely noticed what had happened when they heard a loud thud. It was as if something heavy had hit the table. Everyone looked in surprise, their faces suddenly changing to a state of shock. The heavy object that had struck the table was actually a human head, that of Wang An. Blood spurted out, and a ball of fire ignited in his hand. The bizarre scene frightened the Yamen runners so much that they practically fell to the ground. Their hair stood on end, and a cold sweat streamed down their bodies. It was as if the air around them had chilled. In a room in the backyard of the county government office, Jiang Siren, meditating, was interrupted by a rapid knock on the door. Brother, something's wrong. Lord Wang has been killed." "What?" Jiang Siren's face sank. He leaped off the bed and rushed out the door in an instant. "What did you say?" "Lord Wang has been killed." The Shinran sect cultivator named King Yang exclaimed in horror. "How is that possible? Wasn't he fine this morning?" Jiang Siren asked, looking at King Yang in disbelief. He was just handling official business in the court when, for no apparent reason, someone chopped off his head. "How is that possible?" Jiang Siren, visibly shocked, immediately arrived at the court. Sure enough, he saw Wang An's body still sitting in the chair, stained red with blood. His head lay on the table, his face frozen in surprise. Smoke still emanated from his body, and the air was filled with the stench of blood and burning paper. An eerie aura permeated the courtroom, sending a chill through the cultivator's heart. What happened? Jiang Siren's face was grimacing. He looked at the surrounding Yamen runners and demanded, "We don't know. He was fine, working, and then we heard something crash onto the table. It turned out to be Lord Wang's head." The runners exclaimed in horror. "Didn't you see the assailant?" "No, no one else came in except us." "Oh, right. Before Lord Wang died, he seemed to be reading a letter." "What letter?" Jiang Siren demanded. The bailiffs recounted the entire incident in detail. Hearing their accounts, Jiang Siren felt even more perplexed. Could the envelope have contained some kind of talisman or magical instrument that killed Lord Wang? but he had never heard of any talisman or magical instrument capable of precisely decapitating a person without the caster's precise control, and he couldn't detect any trace of magical energy in the area. Any magical instrument or talisman would inevitably leave residual magical energy. Even if it were an evil spirit, it couldn't be so silent and without any trace of magical energy. He cautiously approached Wang Yin's body and carefully examined it with his spiritual sense. He faintly detected a distinct aura lingering near Wang Yin's body. It was very faint, but it certainly didn't belong to Lord Wang or anyone else present. He was unfamiliar with that aura, yet it felt like a kind of righteous spirit. Who exactly was it, and how did they kill Lord Wang? Jiang Siren was perplexed. The more he thought about it, the more terrified he became. In broad daylight, in full view of everyone, Wang Yin's head had been silently chopped off. This assassination method was so bizarre and horrifying that it sent a chill down Jiang Siren's spine. Oh, that letter. Jiang Siren thought of this clue. He immediately asked the bailiff who had given him the letter. Unfortunately, the bailiff said that he had deliberately concealed his appearance and figure when handing him the letter. After all, the bailiff said it was a clue about the one family case, so he didn't think much about it and brought it in to give to Lord Wang. Jiang Siren's spiritual observation confirmed that the bailiff was not lying. If he was an accomplice, he wouldn't be here now and would have fled long ago. Furthermore, the assailant's methods were so cunning, there was no need to find someone so devoid of ulterior motives. News of Wang Yin's murder spread quickly, sending shockwaves through Kingshao City. Everywhere in the city, in every tea house and tavern, the discussion was filled with this horrifying yet heartwarming news. Hey, who is this Lord Wang? He's the newly appointed magistrate. He just arrived yesterday and was killed today. I heard that the new magistrate is a lackey of the Shinran sect. He came here just to build a Taoist temple for the Shinran sect and help the Shinran sect exploit and oppress us. Yeah, didn't you hear about the document issued before? The Shinran sect asked everyone in the city to pay incense money to the Shinran sect, otherwise they would pay it with corvée labor. They are simply robbers. We pay taxes and perform corvée labor to the court, and now we have to perform corvée labor for the Shinran sect. It's really unfair. Who said it wasn't? Lord Su resigned because of this. That's why the killing is good. This is to eliminate harm for the people. Yeah, I guess the killer is the same person who got rid of Wang Yinchang. He should have killed Wang Yinchang first, in order to stop the Shinran sect from exploiting us, and now he has gotten rid of the new magistrate. Hey, do you think this rumor is true, and that it was done by Master Wei Yi? It's possible. I heard that he was arrested by the new magistrate, and taken to the county government office yesterday, and thrown into jail. Today, the new magistrate was inexplicably killed in court. This is definitely not a coincidence. I think it must be Master Wei Yi. TSK. Master Wei Yi is really good at it. From now on, we in Kingshao City have Master Wei Yi, so we don't have to worry about the Shinran sect coming to harm us. Please give me a monthly ticket. Chapter 127 Deputy Leader. Inside the government office, Co-Magistrate Wu Yun reported the results of the investigation into Wang Yin's murder to Li Xinian. Li Xinian was deeply shocked. In all his years as an official, this was the first time he had heard of such a bizarre case. In broad daylight, with other Yamen runners present, a single letter had led to Wang Yin's death. There was no warning, no sound, and no trace. Even the Shinran sect cultivator, a master of the late Foundation establishment stage and a master of tracking auras, was at a loss, finding no clues. What kind of letter could this be, and what kind of bizarre method? Li Xinian felt his scalp tingle at the thought. Previous cases, whether involving evil cultivators or ghosts and demons, pale in comparison to this one. Fortunately, he wasn't Wang Yin, he hadn't done anything wrong, and he wasn't afraid of ghosts knocking on his door. Was it really Wei Yi? Li Xinian was incredulous. Although he knew Wei Yi was just an ordinary person with no cultivation, he certainly couldn't have done it himself. But if the rumors were true, then who was the man working for him? Why would such an extraordinary person work for Wei Yi? Li Xinian couldn't figure it out, and even found it unbelievable. But no matter what, he was still very happy to see today's result. It seems that it won't be so easy for the Shinran sect to control Kingshao City. Li Xinian thought to himself. The murders of Wang Yanchang and Wang Yan had almost devastated the Shinran sect. It might not be so easy to successfully control King's How City. He even felt that the Shinran sect monks might not live long. In the room at the backyard of Miao Fang, Mr. Gong laughed heartily, feeling extremely happy. Han Kaiang and several other members of the Xiangxia League were also smiling and delighted. Last night, they were still worried about how to get rid of Wang Yan, and even felt that it was a bit difficult. Unexpectedly, this morning, in broad daylight, Wang Yan was killed. Moreover, Wang Yan was under the protection of the Shinran sect monks, yet he was beheaded in such a strange way. This was tantamount to a severe slap in the face of the Shinran sect, and also a shot in the arm for their allies in King's How City. Of course, in addition to being happy, they were also surprised. After all, the timing chosen by the killer and the methods used were really incredible. Haha, once Wang Yan is dead, the Shinran sect's plan will fail again. Mr. Gong said happily. Yeah, Wang Yan's murder really boosted morale, said a man next to him. Could it be that Wei Yi did it again this time? It's very likely. Sister Liu said that she tentatively asked Wei Yi that day, and it is basically certain that Wei Yi is indeed the mastermind behind the elimination of the One family. So maybe this time it was also Wei Yi who sent someone to do it. Another woman said with a smile. Han Kaiang, who was standing nearby, nodded. Shachen said back then that Wei Yi wasn't just an ordinary person with no cultivation, and that he might have a master behind him. Now it seems Shachen was right. Wei Yi definitely has a master behind him. Do you remember the sword that split the Sea of Clouds that day? Mr. Gong suddenly asked seriously. What you're saying is that the person who killed Wang Yan was that? It's very likely. After all, being able to take that corrupt official's head so quietly in broad daylight is something that no ordinary person could accomplish. I've heard that sword immortals can take heads from thousands of miles away, their flying swords as fast as lightning, making it impossible for ordinary people to track them. Upon hearing Mr. Gong's words, everyone's eyes brightened. It seemed to make sense. It's very likely that so-called letter was just a deception. It was the sword immortal's flying sword that actually beheaded Wang Yan. It was just so fast that ordinary people couldn't see it, Han Kaiang said with a hint of excitement. They hadn't expected the person behind Wei Yi to be a sword immortal. Everyone nodded, feeling as if they had discovered the truth. No wonder Wei Yi soared from a simple scholar to become a 5th rank swordsmith, and the Wei family's rapid rise. It seems it was all thanks to the guidance and help of that sword immortal. Great. Wei Yi is also a member of our Xiangxia Alliance. If the sword immortal helps him, he's also helping us. With Wei Yi here, how can we possibly deal with the Shinran sect? Indeed, if Wei Yi truly has the sword immortal's backing, then the Shinran sect will be courting destruction if they attempt to move against Wei Yi. Everyone. Mr. Gong interrupted the excited crowd. He said seriously, aren't we planning to elect a deputy leader to lead the King's How City Xiangxia Alliance? How about we elect Wei Yi? Upon hearing Mr. Gong's proposal, everyone glanced at each other and nodded. Wei Yi had first eliminated Wang Yanchang, and now Wang Yan. His contributions truly surpassed everyone else's. Furthermore, his prestige in King's How City was already incredibly high, commanding the support of hundreds. The grand scene at the county government office last night spoke volumes. If he were to lead the Xiangxia Alliance in King's How City, all members would likely be convinced. I think it's a good choice. With Wei Yi's current influence and prestige in King's How City, he's truly the most suitable candidate. Yes, I think he's a perfect fit. Yes, I agree. In that case, let's discuss this with young Master Wei and the other deacons as soon as possible and find a suitable day to nominate Wei Yi as a deputy leader. While the entire city was buzzing about Wang Yan's murder, Wei Yi was at King Feng Academy's Confucian and Taoist Academy, teaching his own writers. The students' gazes were intense. They all knew that it was Wei Yi who had used his Confucian and Taoist powers to kill Wang Yan. While they didn't know the specific method, the rumor spread throughout the city that Wang Yan was murdered by a letter. That spoke volumes. Their admiration for Wei Yi was unwavering. They also yearned even more deeply for their own future as extraordinary individuals like Wei Yi, possessing the power to turn the tide and change the world. They knew clearly that if Wei Yi hadn't killed Wang Yan, King's House City would be in utter darkness. Therefore, Wei Yi's killing of Wang An was acting in the name of justice. It was a reversal of events, changing the fate of King's House City. After concluding his lecture, Wei Yi summoned Du Xiaoling to his study. Wei Yi's primary purpose for visiting the academy today was to grant Du Xiaoling authorities. After all, Du Xiaoling was not only his friend, but also the greatest contributor to the line of ink and calligraphy, and a crucial figure in his future efforts to establish a Confucian and Taoist sect. Therefore, Wei Yi needed to empower Du Xiaoling with greater self-defense. He was now merely an ordinary man, and at an advanced age, he might not even be able to defeat a stronger and more powerful youth. Master Du, today I will teach you the Confucian and Taoist killing and attacking skills. In the future, you will be able to use the energy of ink and brush to defeat your enemies and protect yourself, Wei Yi said sternly. Upon hearing Wei Yi's words, Du Xiaoling's eyes widened with excitement, his face filled with joy. He immediately bowed and said, "Thank you, Master. Thank you, Master." He was desperate to obtain the magical power of killing. It wasn't that he enjoyed killing, but he also hoped to do his part for Wei Yi and truly join the fight against the Celestial Being sect. Chapter 128, Imparting Confucian and Taoist Magical Powers. Wei Yi approached his desk and wrote a poem on paper. Road to the Chrysanthemum. After failing the imperial examination, wait until autumn arrives on September 8th. When my flower blooms, all other flowers will die. The fragrance will fill the capital, draping the entire city in golden armor. This poem holds the key to whether you can master my Confucian and Taoist killing power. If you can comprehend its true meaning, you will naturally master it. Wei Yi handed the paper to Du Xiaoling and said, "This poem was originally written by Huang Chao, the leader of the peasant uprising in the late Tang dynasty. However, through metaphor, it imbues the chrysanthemum with heroic spirit and noble character. The chrysanthemum symbolizes the vast majority of oppressed people, and all other flowers represent the reactionary and corrupt feudal ruling class. This poem demonstrates the revolutionary leader's resolute spirit, and reveals his own rebellious spirit. In fact, if Wei Yi wanted Du Xiaoling to master the killing power, he only needed to think about it, directly granting him the magical power of brilliant writing. But Wei Yi needed to test whether Du Xiaoling shared his own spirit of struggle and resistance. This was precisely the kind of like-minded individual he needed. Facing the corruption of royal power, the darkness of the world, oppression, and injustice, was he willing and courageous enough to resist? Only such a person was worthy of using his killing abilities to fight alongside him, jointly against the Celestial Being sect, against this era, against royal power, and even against heaven and earth. Knowing Du Xiaoling well, he should have some. Just how much resonated with him depended on how deeply the poem resonated with him. Sure enough, the moment Du Xiaoling read the poem, his eyes suddenly brightened and shone with a complex, deeply moving emotion. Wei Yi also immediately saw numerous golden points of light emanating from Du Xiaoling's body and merging into his own sea of consciousness. This indicated that Du Xiaoling had grasped the poem's meaning and felt a strong emotional resonance. After reading the poem, Du Xiaoling couldn't help but glance at Wei Yi again, nodding resolutely. Through this poem, he could discern Wei Yi's grand ambitions and aspirations. Indeed, many of Wei Yi's poems speak for themselves. This poem, however, only deepens his veiled and direct message. Facing a corrupt and incompetent monarchy and a court dominated by corrupt officials, mere discontent and complaints are pointless. Only by personally bringing about change, restoring order, and bringing light to the world, can one truly live up to one's talent and ambition. This poem reveals Wei Yi's ambition and aspiration to overthrow the corrupt monarchy and restore a prosperous era. Furthermore, the poem's title, Poems on Chrysanthemums After Failure, clearly reflects Wei Yi's feelings. After failing the imperial examination, it was then that memories of his past life awakened, giving rise to the ambition to rebel against the corrupt monarchy. Du Xiaoling shared these thoughts. However, in this world of extraordinary power, the scope of what an ordinary scholar could do was truly limited. Therefore, he yearned more than anyone else to gain power, the power to change the world. Close your eyes and feel the forest of ink and brush with your heart, Wei Yi said. Du Xiaoling immediately crossed his legs, closed his eyes, and immersed his consciousness in the forest of ink and brush. At the same time, Wei Yi granted Du Shaoling access to the magical power of miraculous brush strokes. Use your heart to summon the forest of ink and brush. Wei Yi continued. Du Shaoling did as he was told. With a thought, the forest of ink and brush rustled, as if swept by the wind, forming a wave of trees. Focus on one tree, and try to summon its power. Wei Yi continued. Du Shaoling, excited, immediately focused his attention, and focused his consciousness on a single tree. The leaves on that tree immediately fluttered, swirling in his sea of light. It worked. I summoned it. Du Shaoling exclaimed, his face filled with excitement. Alright, open your eyes. Wei Yi said. Du Shaoling immediately opened his eyes, his excitement unconcealed. Now, try it. Use the energy of the brush and ink as form, and your thoughts as the soul, to write the word you desire. Wei Yi handed the brush to Du Shaoling. Du Shaoling took the brush and nodded. He then took a deep breath, grasped the brush in his right hand, and, concentrating his mind, began to write in the air. The energy of the brush and ink immediately gathered towards the tip of the brush, and rays of light converged, forming the words in the air. The power of heaven and earth seemed to converge, stirring the air around him. Stroke by stroke, Du Shaoling wrote the character Ni in the air. As the word formed, and the meaning was conveyed, the surrounding air seemed to be drawn by the power emanating from the word, flowing backwards. Even the surrounding light seemed to be reflected back, dimming the space around the word. But its own light only grew brighter. Du Shaoling withdrew the energy of the brush and ink in time, and the word dissipated. Normalcy returned to the surroundings. But Du Shaoling's heart remained restless for a long time. This power was too great, too extraordinary. It could actually defy the forces of heaven and earth. Excellent. You've basically mastered the technique of using this brilliant pen. Wei Yi said with a smile. Thank you, master. This power is truly immense, truly extraordinary. Du Shaoling was truly overcome with excitement. It felt like an ordinary person suddenly achieving immortality. However, Wei Yi remained deeply confident in Du Shaoling's cultivation and character, not worried that he might become carried away by this sudden extraordinary power. Furthermore, Wei Yi had just discovered that the power of this brilliant pen, in Du Shaoling's hands, exerted extraordinary force. This was perhaps also closely related to his literary cultivation. Du Shaoling's literary cultivation and attainments were beyond words. Even he himself currently couldn't match her. His understanding of words was far more profound than his own. Therefore, that single word reverse had actually unleashed a force that defied the laws of nature, and it consumed very little of the brush and ink energy. Naturally, Wei Yi was very pleased to see this outcome. If Du Shaoling could unleash even greater combat power, then he would have a more powerful chess piece in his hand. After returning from King Feng Academy, Wei Yi received a package, supposedly from Miss Liu Ru of Xiangmen Lao. Curious, Wei Yi returned to his room and opened it. It turned out to be an exquisitely crafted satin bellband. It still lingered with Liu Ru's unique floral fragrance. Seeing Liu Ru's gift, Wei Yi smiled. It seemed her strength had returned, and she could fight him for another 300 rounds. However, Wei Yi also knew that Liu Ru's invitation to him at this time was probably from the Xiangsha Alliance trying to contact him. After all, they probably guessed that he had eliminated Wang An. So they wanted to find out more about the situation or discuss the follow-up plan. This Liu Ru is really getting more and more out of control, but I like it. Wei Yi smiled. The bellband in his hand felt very smooth. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 129, Borrowing a Knife to Kill. As night fell, Wei Yi rode a carriage to Hangxia's Heio, a temple on the shores of West Lake. He had specially brought Liu Ru some medicinal food and wine tonight, to help her replenish her body beforehand, lest she be overwhelmed by his supernatural powers. Along the way, Wei Yi discovered that cultivators from the Celestial Being sect were secretly following him. Clearly, they were losing their open attack, and were resorting to covert tactics. Of course, they might also be trying to investigate him, gaining a firm grasp on him before taking action. But Wei Yi naturally wouldn't give them that opportunity, nor would he afford them the luxury of time. Killing Wang An was only the beginning. His real target was these celestial being cultivators. He simply needed to find the right moment. After all, the leader, Jiang Siren, was a cultivator in the late Foundation establishment stage, making his capture difficult. The celestial being cultivators followed Wei Yi to the vicinity of Hang Xiao's Hao. One of them frowned and immediately produced a compass, the needle moving, finally pointing in the direction of Hang Xiao's Hao. What a surprise! The fox is hiding here, one of the cultivators exclaimed. He had originally been ordered by Jiang Siren to search for the fox spirit. After searching for ages, he had found nothing and assumed it had left King's Hao City. Unexpectedly, he found it here tonight. It was truly a case of searching high and low for something, only to find it without any effort. You stay here and watch. I'll notify my senior brother. The monk handed the compass to his junior brother beside him and quickly disappeared into the night. After Wang An's murder, Jiang Siren and other Shinran sect monks temporarily took up residence in the one family mansion. Although most of the buildings had burned down, there were still many empty rooms left, allowing them to live and practice. Of course, this was just their temporary residence. Upon hearing his junior brother's report on Wei Yi's whereabouts and the fox spirit, Jiang Siren's face lit up with joy. The fox spirit is hiding in the red sleeves. Humph, that's great. Let it help us eliminate Wei Yi. Jiang Siren suddenly had an idea. Although Wei Yi was just an ordinary person, he could kill him with a single finger. But he must have the assistance of experts, so he must also possess certain life-saving magic weapons and methods. If the truth is revealed, it would be a disaster. He had witnessed Wei Yi's influence first and last night. It was truly formidable. If it were known that a cultivator from the Shinran sect had killed Wei Yi, it would undoubtedly incur public outrage, making their future in King's Hao City even more difficult, let alone building a Taoist temple or expanding their influence. However, if Wei Yi were to be murdered by a fox demon while flirting with prostitutes at Hang Xiao's Hao, then it would be no longer the Shinran sect's business. They could even seize the opportunity to capture the fox demon and enhance their image. It would also likely lead to the discovery of the master behind Wei Yi, revealing their identity and strength. Only by knowing both oneself and the enemy can one determine the correct response. Jiang Siren originally wanted to capture the fox, to refine it into a pill, to help him reach the Jindan realm. But in the current situation, he was more anxious to eliminate Wei Yi. Eliminating Wei Yi with the help of this little fox would be perfect. Let's go to Hang Xiao's Hao, Jiang Siren said, rising. He then brought several of his fellow apprentices with him to the vicinity of Hang Xiao's Hao. Jiang Siren took the compass from his apprentices and examined it carefully, confirming that the fox was indeed inside. But he didn't go in directly, nor did he use his spiritual sense to investigate, lest he alert the enemy. He found a carriage belonging to a wealthy young man on the street. Then, using a hand gesture, he summoned a talisman-shaped paper figurine, which instantly flew into the driver's coat. A faint flash of light froze the driver's expression, but it quickly returned to normal, stopping the carriage. Are we there yet? The young man in the carriage asked. When the driver didn't respond, he lifted the curtain, and another paper figurine flew in. The young man's expression froze. At the same moment, Jiang Siren flew into the carriage and sat beside the young man. He took out 2 more talismans, affixing one to the young man's brow and one to his own. Then, he formed a hand seal with his hands and tapped the talismans. The talisman affixed to the young man's brow instantly transformed into a green light, merging into his brow and disappearing. The other talisman also merged into Jiang Siren's brow. Almost simultaneously, a golden light flashed in their eyes. Jiang Siren had also successfully controlled the young man's consciousness, even borrowing his senses. Go to Hang Xiao's Hao, Jiang Siren thought, and the young man spoke. A moment later, the carriage stopped at the entrance of Hang Xiao's Hao. The young man got off the carriage and walked into Hang Xiao's Hao. Jiang Siren also left the carriage and flew to the roof of Hang Xiao's Hao. He injected his spiritual consciousness into the compass and instantly locked onto the specific location of the vixen. He then manipulated the young man to find an opportunity to go to the private room where the vixen was. Inside the private room, a woman in a red dress, her skin as white as snow, her figure curvaceous and voluptuous, sat at the dining table. Her features were strikingly beautiful, and her eyes, with their fleeting allure, exuded a captivating charm. She possessed the kind of allure that could send a man reeling at a single glance. Furthermore, her loose, uninhibited clothing revealed a voluptuous presence, further alluring. Beside her sat a man, who fawned over her, saying, "This is the Wei family's finest medicinal wine. Could it aid in cultivation and strengthen your blood? And this, or 1,000-year-old ginseng fruit I spent a fortune on. Miss Guyu, are you satisfied?" "Yes, very good." The woman in the red dress beamed. But just then, the door suddenly opened. The woman in the red dress looked in surprise, immediately sensing the fluctuations of manner emanating from the other person. "What are you doing?" The man in the room stood up, his face furious. Then, a talisman-shaped paper figurine instantly flew from the young man's body to the man's. The latter's expression froze, then he stood there, frozen in place, turning aside. "Who are you?" The woman in the red dress, Guyu, frowned, her gaze sharp as she looked at the young man. "Little fox, I want to discuss a deal with you," the young man said in a deep voice, closing the door. Upon hearing this, Guyu's face changed, and murderous intent flashed in her eyes. "This is just a puppet I control. If you don't want to die, come to the roof immediately. Do not attempt to escape. My disciples of the Celestial Being sect have set up a formation around the red sleeves. If you try to escape, I will make you suffer a fate worse than death." As the young man spoke, a powerful spiritual sense penetrated the private room. Guyu's face changed, and a hint of fear flashed in her eyes. Through this spiritual sense, she could sense that the other party's cultivation level was superior to her own. She had not expected that this celestial being sect cultivator had discovered her. "What do you want me to do?" Guyu asked after a moment's silence. "Come to the roof, and I will tell you," the young man said. Guyu pondered for a moment, then waved her sleeves, opening the window. Her figure vanished in a fleeting shadow as she flew out. Finally, she reached the rooftop of Hangxiao's Hao and spotted Jiang Siren standing there. Sensing his presence, Guyu felt even more apprehensive. His cultivation was indeed superior to hers. Furthermore, the Shinran cult was not to be trifled with. If he had discovered her, escaping tonight would be impossible. Unless she expended all her cultivation and fought to the death, she wouldn't have chosen any other option. "Tell me, what exactly do you want?" Guyu asked, glancing at Jiang Siren. "Help me kill Wei Yi. If you do, I'll let you go. Otherwise, I'll refine you into a pill tonight," Jiang Siren said coldly. Chapter 130, Failed to steal a chicken. Wei Yi isn't as simple as he appears. Killing him would also spell doom for me. The expert behind him is no less capable than you, Guyu said gravely. She had seen the expert who had assassinated the one family that day. His aura was unusual, and his strength surpassed hers. Therefore, she didn't want to provoke Wei Yi. Furthermore, he was a handsome man possessing a body of pure and yang energy. Killing him would be a real shame. If she weren't wary of the expert behind him, she would have wanted to absorb his pure yang essence. "You've seen the expert behind Wei Yi, right? Tell me what he's like," Jiang Siren asked. He felt that the man who had fought the fox that day must be Wei Yi's master. He's extraordinary. His aura doesn't resemble that of a cultivator, nor does it resemble that of a warrior. He's an extraordinary being I've never encountered before. He exudes a righteous aura that restrains me, and his methods are also unique. Guyu recounted her experience fighting Ginke that day. Her words further confirmed Jiang Siren's certainty that this man was the one who had killed Wangan. "Don't worry. If the person behind Wei Yi shows up, I'll naturally take action against him. You just need to kill Wei Yi. He's currently at Hangxiao's Hao, so you have a great opportunity," Jiang Siren said. "He's at Hangxiao's Hao?" Guyu was slightly surprised. She had been in the room the entire time and hadn't realized Wei Yi was there. "Indeed, so tonight is definitely a good opportunity for you to take action. Why don't you do it yourself?" "Of course it's inconvenient, little fox. You have no choice. Either kill Wei Yi and give yourself a chance to survive, or I'll kill you now and refine you into a pill." Jiang Siren said coldly. A powerful aura emanated, enveloping Gu Yu, causing her expression to darken. Kill him, but I'll decide how and when. I don't want to attract the person behind him. If he doesn't leave tonight, I'll definitely succeed before dawn, Gu Yu said. You want to drain his pure yang energy before you kill him. Jiang Siren saw what Gu Yu was thinking. After all, pure yang essence was a treasure to this demon cultivator. I have to give myself some benefit, right? Yes, but he must be killed before dawn. Jiang Siren didn't bother to elaborate. He wanted the result, not the process. Okay, deal. Gu Yu smiled slyly. She naturally had her own plans. If she absorbed Wei Yi's pure yang essence, perhaps her strength would be further enhanced overnight. Then, she would have a better chance of success against the celestial being cultivators, preventing them from going back on their word. Of course, she also had another plan, to strike a deal with Wei Yi. She could fake his death, lure the powerful forces behind him into battle with the celestial being cultivators, and then she could escape, killing two birds with one stone. In short, her motto was to trust oneself more than others. Only by playing both sides could she truly emerge victorious in this struggle. Naturally, Gu Yu and Jiang Siren's conversation was overheard by the black cat hiding in the shadows. Wei Yi, who was in Liu Ru's room, had a barely perceptible glint of coldness in his eyes. This Jiang Siren was quite skilled at using a knife to kill someone, but he'd underestimated himself. Since he'd set a trap, he'd have to play along, setting him up for a fight. He'd been looking for a suitable opportunity to finish him off, and now that he'd taken the initiative, he couldn't miss it. Besides, this vixen was quite powerful. If he could sleep with her and turn her into his own beast, she'd be a formidable force. He could also use her to improve his skills in the bedroom. Otherwise, Liu Ru's body wouldn't be able to handle it. After Liu Ru performed a dance for Wei Yi, she dismissed the musicians again and discussed Wang An with him. Wei Yi didn't directly claim to have killed Wang An, but he tacitly agreed with Liu Ru's words. As expected, with the young master here, nothing is unsolvable, Liu Ru said with a sweet smile. By the way, young master, Mr. Gong wishes to nominate you as vice leader of our King's House City Xiangsha Alliance. From now on, all management of the King's House City Xiangsha Alliance will be handed over to you, Liu Ru continued. Mr. Gong is too kind, but I'm afraid I'm not up to the task, Wei Yi said modestly, though he hadn't expected Mr. Gong to actually want him to be the head of the King's House City Xiangsha Alliance. Wei Yi had previously learned from Shachen that the vice leader represented the head of a region. In addition to the leader, the Xiangsha Alliance also had numerous vice leaders, each responsible for a specific region's Xiangsha Alliance affairs. King's House City was considered a new base for the Xiangsha Alliance. Currently, there was no vice leader, so Mr. Gong had been managing and developing the alliance on their behalf. If you, young master, are incapable of the task, then no one else is. King's House City's Xiangsha Alliance is just beginning to develop, and it needs a truly powerful figure like you, capable of commanding the support of hundreds and turning the tide. If you take this position, the other members will undoubtedly be convinced. There's absolutely no one in this city more suited for it than you, Liu Ru said sternly. Wei Yi smiled without comment. He naturally accepted the position of deputy leader. This would allow him to gain a deeper understanding of the Xiangsha Alliance and all the members of King's House City. This would allow him to better leverage the city's influence and resources to fight against the celestial being sect in the future. After discussing business matters, Liu Ru performed a captivating dance for Wei Yi. When their spirits were high, they went to their room and began to discuss life. After a long while, Liu Ru, once again drained, collapsed onto her bed, falling into a deep sleep. Wei Yi, with his brush, meticulously crafted the room. Tonight, if only Gu Yu came, he would be confident he could capture this vixen. As the night deepened and the stillness settled, so too did Hang Xiu. Gu Yu quietly entered the private room through the window and closed it. He sealed both the window and the door with a barrier. Immediately, he formed a hand seal, and a faint light slipped through the crack of the door, entering the bedroom and immersing Liu Ru, lulling her into a deep sleep. Slowly, she pushed the door open and simultaneously unleashed her Fox clan's innate magical power, the art of seduction. A foxy aura permeated the air, filling the room with a pungent, stimulating aura. It was as if the air itself had turned a pink. Her fair skin, her curvaceous curves, seemed to sway before his eyes, approaching, then receding, rising, and falling. A hazy dreamy scene, a spellbinding scene. The soft, whispering voices of young women echoed in his ears, captivating and captivating. However, the golden light within Wei Yi's consciousness immediately dispelled all illusions, restoring his consciousness to clarity. Even without the golden light, the jade pendant he wore had already been imbued with the power to dispel enchantments and illusions through his ingenious technique. Not to mention the meticulously arranged furnishings he had made in his room and bed. Despite regaining his composure, he played along, feigning enchantment, and gazed with a hint of fascination at the slowly approaching Guyu. It must be said, however, that this little vixen in human form was truly a stunner. Her skin was as white as a porcelain doll. Her beauty and figure were comparable to Liu's, but more voluptuous and impressive. The allure in her eyes was even greater, truly captivating. Chapter 131 Losing Myself. Guyu came to the bedside, taking in Wei Yi's near-perfect muscular lines and his extraordinary handsome features. She was actually somewhat mesmerized. She nibbled her fingertips, her heart fluttering. Of course, even more captivating was the aura Wei Yi emanated, the inexplicable desire for closeness, and his masculine figure. Suddenly, it felt as if she herself had been bewitched. She was captivated by Wei Yi's masculine form, unable to control herself. Her red skirt slipped off, and she climbed onto the bed. The candlelight shone, and the gauze curtains trembled. Wei Yi lay in bed, gazing up at the surging waves, the ebb and flow. He couldn't help but notice his proficiency stats surging. It was even greater than the gains he'd made during his time with Liu. Soon, Wei Yi took over, earning experience at full speed. Guyu was surprised to find that her own strength seemed to be rapidly draining. As if something was draining from her, even her own mana was being drained along with it. Her entire body burned hot, and she felt limp and powerless. She tried to stop it, to break free. But she found herself captivated, lost in a trance of intoxication, unable to extricate herself. But at that moment, a strange energy surged into her. It instantly formed a magical mark within her sea of consciousness. Oh no. Guyu shuddered. But it was too late. The mysterious seal instantly took control of her body, and a powerful will overtook her. Like a giant hand, it grasped her entire body. No matter how hard she struggled, she could not escape the five-finger mountain. With that will taking over her, she lost even the ability to struggle. Stop struggling. I've planted a seal within you. From now on, your life and death are in my hands. Wei Yi's voice echoed in Guyu's mind. The voice was like thunder, shaking her heart and instinctively forcing her to obey. How is this possible? Aren't you under my spell? Guyu was shocked. She couldn't understand. Wei Yi should have fallen prey to her charm, his pure yang essence being sucked away. Instead, she was hollowed out, and Wei Yi placed a seal upon her. And didn't Wei Yi have any cultivation? How had he managed this? Had he been hiding his power? Yet, even at such close range, she couldn't sense a single trace of his magical power. Guyu was completely bewildered. Your charm has no effect on me. Submit to me, and I'll spare your life. Wei Yi's voice echoed again. Guyu felt her body tremble involuntarily, her instinctive submission slowly taking over. She no longer had any desire to resist. She even wanted to succumb to Wei Yi's control, to let him do whatever he wanted. With a single thought, Wei Yi instantly sensed Guyu's inner thoughts. It seems you don't truly intend to cooperate with the celestial being sect. In that case, let's truly join forces and deal with Jiang Siren together. There's only one way to completely rid ourselves of the celestial being sect cultivators. Kill them, Wei Yi said. Guyu's heart stirred at Wei Yi's words. She was indeed more willing to trust Wei Yi than the celestial being sect cultivators. After all, Wei Yi had an excellent reputation in the city and possessed such unfathomable strength and means, making him someone worthy of reliance. Of course, she had no other choice now. Okay, Jua is willing to submit to you, young master, Guyu said inwardly. But Wei Yi knew that deep down, Guyu hadn't truly submitted to him. But because of the power of the seal and her current situation, she had been forced to submit temporarily. She still harbored thoughts of defection. But Wei Yi didn't mind. After all, her thoughts were completely within his control. He could easily control her life and death, her actions, and her will. He wasn't afraid of any trouble she might cause. He would definitely tame this little fox into obedience and compliance in the future. Young master, how do you plan to eliminate the Shinran sect monks? Do as I say. Wei Yi telepathically relayed his thoughts to Guyu. He gave Guyu some of the medicinal wine he had brought for Liuru to help her recover. In the dark hours before dawn, Guyu flew out the window. In his room, Wei Yi took up his pen and wrote another rendition of Song of Jinke, summoning Jinke and then concealing himself within the poem. Furthermore, Wei Yi composed another poem, Song of Geisha. My strength can pull mountains, my spirit can conquer the world. The times are against me, and my horse will not depart. My horse will not depart. What can I do? Yuzi, what can I do? As Wei Yi composed this poem, he summoned Xiang Yu's heroic spirit. The moment Xiang Yu appeared, the entire room seemed to tremble, and the very space seemed to warp slightly. An aura as imposing as mountains and stars permeated the air. He was like a god descended to earth, bringing a powerful pressure and awe. Xiang Yu stood tall and imposing, his features sharp and angular, his presence radiating a heroic presence and extraordinary handsomeness. His double pupils, in particular, were awe-inspiring. His heroic spirit was far more powerful than Jinke's. The aura he exuded alone was enough to intimidate. After all, Xiang Yu's achievements and fame far surpassed Jinke's. He remained a true hero in the hearts of future generations. His ancient poems and lyrics have endured through the ages, inspiring countless people to admire, sigh, and lament. Therefore, Xiang Yu's heroic spirit was far more powerful than Jinke's. They felt like heroic spirits of completely different ranks. However, their respective strengths and abilities were naturally different. Xiang Yu was a warrior, Jinke an assassin. Each had their own strengths, and they could also synergize to remarkable effect. Of course, Wei Yi himself was the ultimate trump card. He believed that he, along with the spirits of Xiang Yu and Jinke, could defeat Jiang Siren. No matter how many hidden cards he had, he would be revealed here today. Furthermore, this room was meticulously entrapped. If Jiang Siren dared enter, he would be unable to leave. The moment Guyu unleashed her red sleeves move, she felt Jiang Siren's consciousness lock onto her. She immediately followed that consciousness and arrived at a carriage. Is Wei Yi dead? Jiang Siren looked at Guyu, her hair slightly disheveled, expectantly. Well, he's truly useless. I only absorbed a tiny bit of his essence, and he died. Guyu said with a sneer, smoothing her hair. He's really dead, are you sure? Jiang Siren's eyes brightened, a smile playing on his lips. He hadn't expected Guyu to pull it off so easily. It seemed the expert behind Wei Yi wasn't constantly protecting him. They simply helped him out when things got tough, akin to an employment relationship. Otherwise, this little fox wouldn't have been able to pull it off so easily. But he also knew that everyone had their weaknesses. Wei Yi's weakness was clearly his lust. He'd stayed here defenselessly, allowing this vixen to take advantage and kill him. It could only be said that his cultivation wasn't up to par, and he was still a bit too young to fight against the celestial beings. Go check it out. Once you're sure, let me go, Guyu said coldly. Okay. Jiang Siren smiled with interest. He really wanted to see how Wei Yi died. It must have been quite amusing. Thank you all for your monthly votes. Chapter 130 to killing Jiang Siren. Jiang Siren flew out of the carriage, scanning the surroundings with his spiritual sense to confirm that no one was paying attention. He quickly approached Han Xiao's Heyo. Guyu also emerged from the carriage and glanced at the Shinran sect cultivator staring at her. A flicker of murderous intent flashed in her eyes. As long as Wei Yi could hold Jiang Siren back, she was confident she could kill these key refining cultivators. Jiang Siren reached Han Xiao's Heyo and, using wind control, flew toward the open window on the second floor. He landed gracefully in the private room. The floor was littered with written papers, apparently blown by the wind. But just as he was about to use his magic power to close the window, he suddenly felt his Zen ki, as if suppressed by some force, stagnate and even become chaotic. He felt as if his body were mired in mud, and his movements became extremely difficult. The air around him seemed to solidify, pressing down on him, making him feel incredibly heavy. What's going on? Jiang Siren's face changed, and he scanned the surroundings with his spiritual sense. He detected no trace of magical energy. There didn't seem to be any talismans, prohibitions, or magical formations. But what was this feeling? As his spiritual sense swept across the area, he immediately discovered two people in the bedroom. Both were breathing lifeless. Wei Yi isn't dead. Damn, I've fallen into a trap. Jiang Siren suddenly realized. But at that moment, a burly figure flew out of the paper behind him. The halberd in his hand flashed with a cold, sharp light and slashed directly at Jiang Siren's head. Jiang Siren's face paled, and his hair stood on end, filled with horror. He had no idea where this attacker had come from. It felt as if they had appeared out of thin air. However, he didn't have time to think too much, and there was no way he could avoid it. He immediately summoned his defensive magic weapon, energizing his magic power to block the incoming halberd. Boom! The halberd crashed down with great force, crashing directly into the defensive magic weapon, sending ripples through the air. Jiang Siren's face paled, horrified. He could sense the immense strength of the mysterious man before him. He couldn't discern his cultivation level, but he must be a martial arts expert. He exuded a murderous aura and an unparalleled dominance, a quality that instilled fear. However, his aura was different from the one he'd sensed on Wanyan's body. Furthermore, this man clearly wasn't skilled in assassination. Instead, he resembled a warrior who charged into battle, slaying enemies and destroying armies. Having his strike blocked, Xiang Yu's attack intensified. The halberd in his hand was like thunder streaking through the night sky, hammering down on Jiang Siren's defensive weapon. Boom 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 boom. In a matter of seconds, the weapon, unable to bear the weight, shattered. Jiang Siren's face paled, his magical energy swirling in chaos, and a mouthful of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. He knew he'd fallen for a trick, but being there felt like being trapped in some kind of trap. An invisible force restricted his movements, suppressing his magical powers. Coupled with the swift and fierce attack of the man wielding the halberd, he had no chance to breathe or escape. But at that moment, countless glowing words swirled around him. He seemed to hear the voices of countless students reciting in unison. From the side, a mountain becomes a peak. From the front, a peak. From far and near, heights differ. I cannot see the true face of Mount Lu, because I'm within it. For a moment, he felt his mind drift. Everything around him became distorted and blurry. His consciousness began to disorient, and his sight and hearing vanished. In a trance, he felt as if he were in the vast mountains. Countless peaks rose and fell before his eyes, stretching endlessly. He completely lost his bearings, and could no longer see the man with the halberd. He was completely lost in the illusion. But at that moment, the halberd struck him hard on the back. Fortunately, the protective vestments beneath his Taoist robes helped him absorb most of the damage. But the impact of the halberd strike also broke several bones. His internal ki became even more chaotic, and he spat out another mouthful of blood. The sounds of fierce fighting naturally awakened the entire Red Sleeves movement. Everyone fled their rooms in fear, but no one dared approach. They even retreated downstairs, listening to the loud noises coming from Liuru's room upstairs. They knew that such a loud commotion was definitely a battle between masters. If they approached rashly, they might be implicated. Is it Liuru's room? Is young Master Wei in there? Oh no, young Master Wei might be in danger. Hurry, report to the police. The crowd chattered. However, just then, the sounds of fighting outside also caught their attention. Many ran to the door, only to see a woman in a red dress fighting 4 Shinran sect cultivators in the distance. Guyu had just taken on 6 cultivators alone, and held her own, even defeating 2 in quick succession. Those who had initially thought Guyu was about to flee, hoping to hold him back, while they waited for their senior brothers to arrive. However, what awaited them was not their senior brothers, but death. The remaining 4 were completely defenseless against Guyu. They hadn't expected Guyu to dare kill their celestial being cultivators, and they wondered why their senior brother hadn't yet emerged. But at that moment, the ribbon in Guyu's hand transformed into a sharp blade, piercing another cultivator's heart. Seeing the situation dire, the remaining 3 abandoned their fight and fled. But there was no escape. Gu Yu, using her magical power, conjured 2 clones, which separated from her original form to pursue. Screams echoed in succession. All 3 celestial being cultivators were slain by Gu Yu. Her face paled further, her breathing erratic, her mana drained considerably, and her form weakened. Of course, this was also due to Wei Yi's attack, leaving her feeling a bit weak. Otherwise, she would have been more than capable of dealing with these key refining realm cultivators. Inside the room, Jiang Siren became a sitting duck, savaged by Xiang Yu's halberd. He summoned numerous defensive and escape talismans. Yet, they were all routed by Xiang Yu, unable to withstand his attack. Furthermore, trapped in this illusion, he couldn't even see his way, so how could he escape? Soon, Jiang Siren was covered in blood, his bones shattered. He collapsed to the ground, barely breathing, coughing up blood and convulsing. He was dying, powerless to resist. Wei Yi, Shan, Ren cult. No, I won't let you go. Jiang Siren's weak voice rang out through gritted teeth. I won't let you, Shan Ren cult, either. Wei Yi's voice echoed in Jiang Siren's ears. Then, he felt a cold blade pierce his heart. His last remaining strength vanished in an instant. The illusion vanished, and Wei Yi's figure appeared in his blurry vision. Remember, I killed Wang Yanchang, I killed Wang An, and I killed you too. Wei Yi said coldly. Jiang Siren wanted to say something, but nothing came out. Blood gushed from his mouth like a fountain, and he looked at Wei Yi with resentment and fear. He couldn't figure out how he had fallen into the trap tonight. Even more so, he couldn't figure out what methods Wei Yi had used to set up such a strange formation. But one thing was clear to him. This Wei Yi was indeed not as simple as he appeared. He was not an ordinary person at all. It was just that he couldn't see through him. Chapter 133 No One Left Behind. After beheading Jiang Siren, Wei Yi immediately ordered Xiang Yu and Jing Ke to exit through the window. They were to attack Wang Yancheng and the other celestial beings' cultivators. None of them should be spared. Furthermore, Wei Yi knew their current locations. After all, Wei Yi's army of cats was spread throughout the city, omnipresent. They had secretly monitored the movements of every celestial being cultivator. Wei Yi then called Gu Yu back. Seeing Jiang Siren lying dead in the private room, Gu Yu was deeply shocked. She looked at Wei Yi with awe. This was a late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator, a figure even she feared. And yet, Wei Yi had actually killed him. Jiang Siren lay covered in blood, his death a gruesome sight. Meanwhile, Wei Yi remained as unharmed and handsome as he had been when he left. Even his breathing was incredibly steady, as if the one who had just beheaded Jiang Siren wasn't him at all. This clearly demonstrated the vast difference in strength between Jiang Siren and Wei Yi. He was completely abused, powerless to fight back. This meant that Wei Yi's strength was absolutely unfathomable, beyond imagination. He saw him as just an ordinary person, but that was because his limited strength made it impossible to discern his true potential. If he had truly treated him as such, his fate would have been no different from Jiang Siren's. It seemed his choice had been wise. Wei Yi was truly an otherworldly master. Gu Yu, to avoid trouble, you must take the blame for this for me. But rest assured, if you follow me from now on, I will protect your safety, and will not use you as a scapegoat. Wei Yi said to Gu Yu. He knew full well that the Shinran sect controlled the imperial court. The government would certainly not turn a blind eye to the murder of a Shinran sect cultivator, and the Shinran sect would not let this go unpunished. He absolutely could not prove this accusation. Otherwise, not only would his strength be exposed, but it would also cause unnecessary trouble, and would implicate many others. Therefore, as long as Gu Yu took the accusation for him, and kept her hidden, this matter would become another unsolved case. Even if the Shinran cult also suspected that it was him, there was no actual evidence. So they couldn't use the power of the government to deal with him. At least they couldn't do anything to him openly. But if they were to play dirty, he would definitely not be afraid of them. Okay. Jua understands. Gu Yu nodded. She could understand Wei Yi's approach. She immediately covered her face with a veil, carried Jiang Siren's body, and walked out of the private room. Then, in the shocked and terrified eyes of the crowd, she walked straight out of Hang Xiao's Heo, and threw the body casually onto the street. The figure flashed, turned into a red fox, and disappeared into the night. Seeing the woman in the red dress leave, the people present suddenly exploded, and countless discussions rang out. Who is this woman? She actually killed a celestial being cultivator. Yes, how could a celestial being cultivator be here? Did you see that? That woman turned out to be a vixen. Could the celestial being cultivators have come here to capture this vixen? Possibly. Oh, I wonder if young Master Wei is alright. Go check on young Master Wei. As everyone was discussing this, Wei Yi and Liu ran out of the room, faces terrified. They were wearing only simple undergarments, their hair a bit disheveled. Young Master Wei, are you alright? The Hang Xiao's Hao steward hurried upstairs, asking with concern. It's okay, it was just a false alarm, Wei Yi said pretentiously. He then recounted a brief account of what had just happened, a story he had fabricated, of course. Meanwhile, at the One Family Mansion, Jingke and Xiangyu arrived. The remaining celestial being cultivators were all at the One Family, including Wang Yansheng. After entering the One Family Mansion, the two men split up. Jingke hid in the shadows, waiting for his chance to strike. Xiangyu, halberd in hand, marched straight to Wang Yansheng's room. He swung his halberd, a silver light ripping through the darkness. With a mighty blast, the halberd shattered the forbidden door with a roar. Wang Yansheng, who was cultivating in his room, was startled awake. But before he could react, Xiangyu's figure rushed in. His terrifying aura sent a chill through Wang Yansheng's heart. He immediately summoned a talisman, transforming it into a protective light barrier. At the same time, he drew his nearby long sword and dodged. But Xiangyu's halberd swept across, its powerful aura transforming into tangible energy, tearing through the air and the light barrier. Undiminished in power, he instantly struck Wang Yansheng, who had just dodged. Wang Yansheng's expression changed drastically. He immediately channeled his true energy into his sword, holding it horizontally before him to block. Bang! Wang Yansheng was knocked back repeatedly by the powerful blow, his knuckles aching. But Xiangyu's halberd suddenly flipped, its blade instantly catching Wang Yansheng's sword and pulling it back. Wang Yansheng was caught off guard, and his sword slipped from his grasp, slamming into the beam. The halberd, like a dragon, glided through the air, once again bearing immense force, slashed towards Wang Yansheng. Terrified, Wang Yansheng desperately dodged, using his protective magic weapon to block a few strikes. But the opponent's attack was incredibly fast, like thunder, arriving in an instant. The overwhelming momentum and power, unstoppable, shattered his protective magic weapon. Wang Yansheng narrowly avoided the vitals, but the halberd severed one of his arms. Blood gushed out, and his face turned pale, a look of terror. Meanwhile, other Shinran sect cultivators rushed over. Hidden in the shadows, Jingke waited for his opportunity. As the sword swung, it instantly killed a celestial being cultivator. Shortly thereafter, the entire mansion suddenly fell silent. Wang Yansheng and the other celestial being cultivators were utterly slain. Not a single soul remained alive in the entire One Family Mansion. When the dust settled, Xiangyu and Jingke vanished, leaving the entire mansion in a deathly silence. The murder of the celestial being cultivator naturally alerted the government office and the patrol battalion. After all, the matter was of grave importance, and they couldn't ignore it. If the higher-ups blamed him, it would be tough on him, the prefect. Upon arriving at the scene, Li Xinian was also shocked. He hadn't expected Wei Yi to possess such audacity and power. First, he had killed Wang An, and now he had even eliminated the celestial being cultivators. Even Jiang Siren, a cultivator in the late Foundation establishment stage, had been slain. This was truly terrifying. At least, among the masters he knew of in King's House City, no one had the ability to kill a cultivator in the late Foundation establishment stage. He couldn't imagine how powerful the people behind Wei Yi were. Although all the witnesses said it was a fox demon that killed the celestial cult monk, Li Xinian knew it clearly. This was too coincidental, and Wei Yi was definitely involved. The fox demon might have been deliberately arranged by Wei Yi. Otherwise, why did she kill Jiang Siren and leave in front of everyone? She was obviously trying to take all the blame on herself. I didn't expect Wei Yi to even make the fox demon submit to him and obey his orders. This guy's really getting more and more difficult to understand. Thanks to Dark Knight Starry Sky for the 500 starting coins, and thank you all for your monthly tickets. Chapter 134 Restoring Tranquility. However, Wei Yi's finding a fox demon to take the blame saved Li Xinian a considerable amount of trouble. After all, if it was a fight between a fox demon and a celestial being cultivator that ultimately led to the cultivator's death, the case would not fall under the jurisdiction of their government office. It would be considered a demonic rebellion. Previously, the Xuanjing division would have been responsible for investigating. Now, the celestial being cult would handle it. But as the prefect, he naturally had to thoroughly investigate the matter and report it to the higher-ups, at least providing a reasonably reasonable explanation. The aftermath was no longer his responsibility. However, thinking about the events of the past few days still gave Li Xinian a headache. The newly appointed magistrate had been murdered, and so had the celestial being cultivator. He was sure his superiors would be furious, and he would likely be severely reprimanded, possibly even punished with salary deductions. But compared to the future of being bullied and exploited by the celestial being cult, and being treated like a dog by those cultivators, this price was worth it. And now, even Jiang Siren had been killed. The Shinran sect's plan to control King's House City would likely be delayed again. Even if they sent more cultivators, even more powerful ones, it remained uncertain whether they would survive to complete the construction of the Taoist temple. As Li Xinian left Hangxiao's Heio, he looked at Wei Yi with a look of awe. Now he had to reassess this young man. Back then, he was just an ordinary person who needed Du Yujiang's help. Now, in just a few months, he had become the most prestigious and unpredictable figure in King's House City. He had once considered Wei Yi a promising 5th grade swordsmith, a brilliant poet, a philanthropist who promoted education, and a successful businessman. Later, with Wang Yinchang's death, he saw Wei Yi's true potential for the first time, and it truly impressed him. But now, the killings of Wang Yin and the Shinran sect cultivators had repeatedly shocked him, bringing him to his senses. Wei Yi had changed beyond recognition, becoming something beyond imagination. He couldn't understand how Wei Yi had managed it. But one thing was certain, he was now the undisputed uncrowned king of King's House City. Fortunately, he had a good relationship with him. Otherwise, if such a man had become his enemy, it would have been a nightmare. The news of the Shinran sect monk's murder and the utter annihilation of the Wan family once again rocked the city. By early morning, the news had spread throughout the city, and everyone was buzzing about it. Naturally, Wei Yi was once again the focus of discussion. Although witnesses said it was a fox demon, everyone naturally preferred to believe it was Wei Yi. The fox demon was just a cover. After returning home from Hangxiuzhou, Wei Yi began to work on his fitness skills. After all, he had gained so much energy from Liu Ru and Gu Yu. Gu Yu, in particular, had nearly given him a nosebleed. He needed to deplete it. His fitness skills were currently 58% away from advancing to the next level. His newly acquired bedroom skills were 33% away from reaching the 3rd level. Wei Yi really wanted to improve this skill quickly. He wanted to see if he could upgrade the passive skill of replenishing yin and yang into an active skill. As for the other skills, the one that was currently on the verge of upgrading was blacksmithing. It was only 15% away from proficiency, and he estimated that, after forging 2 more 5-bead swords, he would be almost there. Cooking, winner making, and animal taming were not far behind. They were basically only about 20% away from proficiency. Wei Yi had also discovered that during his in-depth communication with Gu Yu, he not only gained proficiency in bedroom skills, but also in animal taming. This really was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. After breakfast, Wei Yi fed the cats in the yard. They were all heroes. Without them, it would not be so easy to deal with the Shinran sect this time. So Wei Yi specially prepared medicinal cat food for them to nourish their bodies. Not long after, Su Lingyan, who had come to visit Wei King, suddenly ran up to Wei Yi and said, "Young Master Wei, here, this is for you." Oh. Wei Yi looked at Su Lingyan's small hand in surprise. Lying flat on her fair palm was an exquisite sachet in immense style and color. Embroidered with the character Yi Yi was also visible. "I made this myself. I hope you like it," Su Lingyan said nervously, her cheeks even blushing. Without waiting for Wei Yi's reply, she stepped forward, thrust the sachet into his hand, and immediately ran away. "Thank you, I love it," Wei Yi said with a smile. Su Lingyan turned back to look at Wei Yi with a sweet smile, then, somewhat embarrassedly, pulled Wei King, who had a gossipy expression on her face, into his boudoir. Wei Yi sniffed the sachet. It smelled wonderful and refreshing, likely due to the precious spices it contained. The sachet was exquisitely crafted, the embroidery beautiful and detailed, showing the care and attention this young woman had put into it. Wei Yi hung the sachet around his waist and continued petting the ginger cat as it ate. Just then, Guo Pixiu rushed in. The servants in the courtyard greeted him. Brother Wei, you're amazing. Oh my goodness. Come on, tell me what happened last night. It's so exciting. Guo Pixiu excitedly ran over to Wei Yi. There's nothing much to tell. The real story might not be as interesting as the rumors. Wei Yi remained crouched there, petting the cat. He didn't dare tell Guo Pixiu the truth, or the whole world would know. Brother Wei, stop pretending. If there's anything we can't share, tell me quietly, and I promise not to tell anyone else. Guo Pixiu squatted down beside Wei Yi, hugged him, and said with a playful smile, I fainted and didn't see a thing. When I woke up, all the Shinran cult cultivators were dead. Wei Yi said. Seeing Wei Yi's reluctance to speak, Guo Pixiu, though slightly disappointed, didn't take it too seriously. After all, he knew the matter was of grave importance. Wei Yi certainly couldn't reveal the truth casually. Forget it. In my heart, your Arking's house it is great hero, and many others share my belief. Now that Wang An and the celestial cult have been eliminated, and the one family completely annihilated, King's House City can finally return to peace. Guo Pixiu said with a smile. Wei Yi nodded, smiling without saying anything. He didn't really care whether others considered him a hero or not. He did all this simply to protect King's House, the city he loved, and the friends he had. As Guo Pixiu had said, King's House City could finally enjoy a period of peace. By the way, Brother Wei, my uncle said the one family's assets have been confiscated. He asked me to ask you which shops you plan to keep, so he can keep them for you. Guo Pixiu suddenly added. You go and handle this matter. You can keep whoever makes money. You can keep whoever you want. It's all up to you. Wei Yi said with a smile. Okay, I understand. Oh, by the way, today is a day worth celebrating. Let's get together in the evening. It's been a long time since we had a good drink together. Guo Pixiu said with a flattering look. Okay. Wei Yi knew that Guo Pixiu was craving the dishes he cooked again, but he was in a very good mood today. It's rare that after the storm, a sunny day came. It is indeed worth celebrating. Thanks to the waiter of the inn for the reward of 100 starting coins, and thank you all for the monthly tickets. Chapter 135, Surprised Suzhe. By the way, Cheyenne Lu, when you have time, help me find a house in the city. Wei Yi stood up and said. He planned to buy another mansion. On the one hand, it would provide Gu Yu with a place to hide. On the other hand, it would also be convenient for him to meet with members of the Xiangsha Alliance or to plan things in the future. After all, the restaurant was crowded with people and eyes, making things sometimes inconvenient. The old house wasn't secluded enough either. The house itself was so small that you could see the end at a glance. Hiding anything was impossible. So Wei Yi needed a house that was large enough and quiet enough. Of course, practicing skills in the room also required a separate space. He couldn't always run to Hang Xiao's Heyo. After all, no place was as safe as his own territory. No problem. What kind of house do you want? Guo Pixiu asked. Away from the city, the quieter the better. The yard should be large enough, at least larger than the one family's original house. Wei Yi detailed his requirements. No problem, leave it to me. I'll give you an update in 2 days at most. Guo Pixiu said readily. While he wasn't good at other things, he was an expert at spending money. He knew the city's famous mansions better than anyone else. As Wei Yi finished speaking, several suitable courtyards immediately popped up in his mind. After Guo Pixiu left, Wei Yi took a carriage to Qingfeng Academy. A group of students had recently passed the Confucian Academy's assessment and were waiting for Wei Yi to conduct the final screening to determine whether they would be accepted into the academy. Furthermore, Wei Yi's more important purpose for visiting today was to recruit Suzhe as his literary advisor. Suzhe, like Du Shaoling, was also quite accomplished in literature. He had a deep understanding of Wei Yi's poems and held him in great admiration. Most importantly, he possessed a strong literary aura. His inclusion in the community of writers would significantly elevate the institution. Of course, more importantly, Wei Yi felt that Du Shaoling needed help, and Suzhe was the perfect candidate. After he becomes the writer, he can assist Du Shaoling and help him manage King Feng Academy and develop Confucianism together. As soon as Wei Yi entered the academy, a group of students rushed over after hearing the news, lining the streets to welcome him and greeting him. The eyes looking at Wei Yi were all full of admiration and awe. In addition to their own respect for Wei Yi, these emotions were more because of the events that happened in the past few days. Although they also heard the rumors in the city, but in their hearts, they also firmly believed that Wei Yi was the hero who turned the tide, eradicated the Shanren sect and Wangan, and protected the peace of King's House City. Du Shaoling, Suzhe and other college teachers also came out to greet him, and then went to the Confucian Academy with Wei Yi. Seeing Wei Yi go to the Confucian Academy, the students couldn't help but talk about it. Hey, Brother Lu, I heard that you have passed the Confucian Academy's assessment? Well, I passed the written test, but I heard that Master Wei will personally select the candidates today to finally decide who can enter the Confucian Academy. Congratulations, Brother Lu, you really make us envious. Yes, Brother Lu is really amazing. He actually passed the Confucian Academy's assessment. I also have to study hard and strive to be admitted to the Confucian Academy. You are too kind. I'm also worried. I don't know if I can be selected by Master Wei. Of course there will be no problem. Brother Lu is very talented. Master Wei will definitely appreciate it. Yes, Brother Lu will definitely succeed today. Thank you. Then I will take advantage of your good wishes. By the way, Brother Lu, I heard that by entering the Confucian Academy, you can directly become Master Wen's student and receive Master Wen's personal teachings, right? Well, there is such a rumor, but I don't know what is so special about the Confucian Academy. In short, the masters value the Confucian Academy so much, so it must be extraordinary. Hey, classmates, I heard some gossip recently. It said that in addition to studying literature, the Confucian and Taoist Academy also seems to study magic. Study magic? Is that true? That's a bit outrageous. The academy is not a sect of cultivation, so how could they study magic? Moreover, the students of the Confucian and Taoist Academy are all ordinary people, not cultivators, so how can they practice magic? This is just a rumor. Yes, the students of the Confucian and Taoist Academy are all mysterious. When you ask them, they always say that the secrets of heaven cannot be revealed. No one knows what they are studying specifically. Well, Master Du did say that if you are admitted to the Confucian and Taoist Academy, you must not talk about anything in the academy to the outside world at will. This is the most basic principle of the Confucian and Taoist Academy, and it is also one of the main contents of the second round of exams. This Confucian and Taoist Academy is really curious. Anyway, as Brother Lu said, this Confucian and Taoist Academy must be extraordinary, otherwise why would everyone hope to be admitted to the Confucian and Taoist Academy? And all the masters also attach great importance to the Confucian and Taoist Academy. Well, anyway, we should all learn from Brother Lu and work hard to get into the Confucian Academy. Once we are there, we'll understand its mysteries. Yes, let's work hard together and strive to get into the Confucian Academy. A group of students looked longingly in the direction of the Confucian Academy, discussing among themselves. Suzhe followed Wei Yi and Du Shaoling into the Confucian Academy. Although he had been a member of the academy for so long, this was his first time entering the academy. He was also deeply curious about what the Confucian Academy was like. He had previously asked Du Shaoling about it, but Du Shaoling had simply smiled and remained silent, saying he would tell him when the time was right. So, seeing Du Shaoling and Wei Yi bringing him into the Confucian Academy today, Suzhe was naturally overjoyed, even a little excited. He felt that today he might finally learn its secrets. He also had a strong feeling that this Confucian Academy was definitely something special. After Wei Yi arrived at the Confucian Academy, he began interviewing the students who had passed the examination one by one, comparing them to the figures in the forest of ink. Du Shaoling took Su She on a tour of the Confucian Academy, observing the students writing, painting, and reciting poetry. After this tour, Su She felt slightly disappointed. He felt as if he had overestimated the importance of this Confucian Academy. However, when Du Shaoling demonstrated his magic brush strokes before Su She nearly fell to his knees. His shock was even greater and more intense than Du Shaoling's own. For a long time, he even felt like he was dreaming. Only after slapping himself a dozen times, his face swollen, did he finally confirm his belief. He was convinced that this was all real, that this Confucian Academy truly held a hidden secret. Du Shaoling also explained the true origins of the Confucian Academy and the essence of Confucian and Taoist practice. After hearing Du Shaoling's words, Su She was even more shocked and excited. He also fully understood the events that had recently shaken the city. He finally understood how Wei Yi had eliminated Wang Yanchang, Wang, and the Shanren sect cultivators. Previously, he had thought Wei Yi was merely aided by a master. Now, it seemed, this so-called master was actually himself. This Wei Yi was the true hidden master of King's House City. Brother Du, can I also practice Confucianism? Su Zhe looked at Du Shaoling excitedly, his eyes filled with anticipation. Du Shaoling laughed heartily and said, of course. My master asked me to bring you here today, to teach you the methods of Confucianism. Let's go back, and pay our respects to Master Wei. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 136, Different Opinions. Master, please accept my humble greeting from Su Zhe. Upon seeing Wei Yi again, Su Zhe immediately knelt and performed the rites of acknowledgement. Wei Yi was a little surprised, but he immediately understood Su Zhe's actions. He must have been overly excited after hearing that he would teach him the Confucian and Taoist methods. However, Wei Yi's eyes were carefully scrutinizing Su Zhe's cheeks. They were slightly red and swollen, covered with finger marks, as if he had been slapped. Master Su, what's wrong with your face? It doesn't matter. I was deeply moved by what I heard about Confucianism and Taoist methods today. I was overwhelmed and lost my composure. I hope Master will forgive me. Get up, Master Su. There's no need for such a grand gesture. Wei Yi helped Su Zhe to his feet. Without further ado, he immediately began to teach him the Confucian and Taoist methods. After all, Du Shaoling had already said everything he needed to say, so there was no need for him to waste further explanations. As Su Zhe's consciousness was drawn back into the world of ink and brush, he was deeply moved once again. Su She then began writing. Sure enough, he saw the energy of ink and brush converge within the forest of ink, a truly miraculous sight. This suddenly brought him a newfound joy in writing, and he wrote non-stop. Wei Yi then individually summoned the 20 students who had passed the examination. He had personally met them, comparing them to the figures in his own forest of ink and brush. They were all qualified to serve as his own writers, so Wei Yi gave them all a pass. Upon hearing this news, the students were thrilled, though they still didn't know what it meant. However, Du Shaoling's subsequent speech and his on-site demonstration of his brilliant brush strokes completely overturned their preconceptions. They were stunned, and even lost their breath, their hearts awash with emotion. They had many theories about the Confucian Academy, and rumors abounded within, but none of them could compare to the astonishing and unbelievable truth they now heard. They had never dared to imagine that scholars could cultivate themselves and even display supernatural powers through writing and painting. If one hadn't seen it with one's own eyes, one would never have believed it. The rumors are actually true. Lu Yongxiu was both shocked and excited. He hadn't expected that this rumor had actually hinted at something. The Confucian and Taoist Academy truly offered the opportunity to learn magic. However, this wasn't magic in the traditional sense of the word. It was a completely new unheard of cultivation method. This meant that in the future, they too could possess extraordinary powers, just like those warriors and cultivators. The mere thought filled them with fascination and excitement. It felt almost like a dream, unreal. After Du Shaoling's instruction, Wei Yi officially taught them the Confucian and Taoist cultivation methods. In essence, he granted these students the privilege of writing within the forest of ink. From then on, they could join the ranks of those striving to condense the spirit of calligraphy and expand the forest of ink. Wei Yi left the rest of the procession to Du Shaoling. He then left King Feng Academy for the main Wei family ironware shop, where he planned to forge two swords and upgrade his blacksmithing skills. Arriving at the main ironware shop, Wei Yi also saw Shitao forging a sword. Shitao now lives there most of the time. Apart from eating, drinking, and going to the bathroom, he spends almost every day forging swords, practically even more dedicated than Wei Yi. Shitao's forging skills are improving rapidly, and with Wei Yi's guidance, his actual level is almost approaching that of a 7th grade swordsmith. Forging a single pearl sword is now effortless and easy for him. The swords he forges not only fully meet the needs of the Wanjian Pavilion in Kingshao City, but have even been sold to Wanjian Pavilion shops in Beijing and other cities. They have earned a strong reputation there, and sales are steadily increasing. Listening to the clanging of ironwork in the yard, Wei Yi couldn't help but miss those days spent forging iron every day. Although those days were hard, they were also fulfilling and joyful. Days of struggle are always memorable. Of course, that doesn't mean his life is unhappy or unfulfilling now. It's just that his abilities have grown, his horizons have broadened, and the tasks he has to bear have become more numerous and more arduous. In the past, all he needed to do was forge a sword, focusing on forging a perfect sword. Now, he has to consider how to manage his own business, protect his family, and safeguard Kingshao City. Even more, he wants to use his own abilities to influence and change the world. Brother, you're here. Shitao was overjoyed to see Wei Yi approach. He immediately pulled Wei Yi aside to admire the sword he had recently forged. He also discussed with Wei Yi his recent challenges, along with his experiences and insights. Shitao, you're amazing. Your skills are almost catching up to yours, big brother. Keep up the good work. I hope you'll be even better than me. Wei Yi patted Shitao on the shoulder in encouragement. For Shitao, Wei Yi's recognition was more fulfilling than any praise or honor in the world. After chatting with Shitao for a while, Wei Yi joined in the sword forging. As he swung his hammer, his proficiency in forging began to improve once again. At noon, Su Zhe, who had been working tirelessly, was called home by his wife for lunch. He now lived at the academy, making it easy for him to get home. When he saw his wife, Su Zhe couldn't contain his inner joy and excitement. He couldn't help but tell his wife about the day when he became Wei Yi's disciple. But he naturally didn't mention the practice of Confucianism and Taoism. He just said that he would follow Wei Yi to learn deeper literature and knowledge. Wait a minute, what's wrong with your face? Su Zhe's wife also noticed his slightly red and swollen face. That's not important. Don't interrupt. Just listen to me. In the future, under the guidance of my mentor, I will be able to truly touch the highest realm of literature. Let me see the truth. See the extraordinary. Su Zhe said with a beaming eyebrow. Wait a minute. You become Wei Gangzi's disciple. Then what will happen to our daughter in the future? How can she marry Wei Gangzi? Su Zhe's wife said. What's the big deal? We can talk about our own things from now on. If my mentor marries Lingayan, he'll call me father-in-law and I'll call him mentor. Lingayan'll call me dad, and I'll call Lingayan my mentor's wife. It won't affect each other. Ha ha ha, as the saying goes, misfortune often brings blessing. Now it seems that my demotion to Kingshao City is a good thing. No, it's a great blessing. I really have to thank those treacherous people for squeezing me here. Ha ha ha. Su Zhe laughed excitedly. His wife looked at Su Zhe with a strange expression, even a little worried. Why did she feel that Su Zhe was a little abnormal today? Could it be that he was stimulated by something and had a mental problem? By the way, go drink the medicine first. Su Zhe's wife interrupted Su Zhe, who was grinning alone. Chapter 137 Blacksmithing Skills Advancement. Over the next 2 days, Wei Yi forged 2 5-bead swords, finally reaching the final level of proficiency required for his blacksmithing skill. Wei Yi didn't plan to keep these two swords. Instead, he planned to sell them to the Wanjian Pavilion. However, after this upgrade to his blacksmithing skill, he wanted to forge two more swords for himself. One to be named Ganjiang, the other Mo Yi. He wondered how this upgrade would improve his sword forging skills. That night, Wei Yi continued his writing skills until midnight, as usual, before retiring to bed. Before falling asleep, he also upgraded his blacksmithing skill. A familiar feeling washed over him, and the blacksmithing skill in the system interface was upgraded from level 3 to level 4. Countless information flooded into his mind, and a slight electric current coursed through his body, a tingling sensation that was incredibly pleasant. Wei Yi dreamed of another night of blacksmithing. More accurately, it felt like he had experienced a century of blacksmithing. Countless valuable experiences and memories had become ingrained in his bones, woven into his soul, becoming second nature. After upgrading, Wei Yi gained numerous blacksmithing skills. No, to be precise, it couldn't be called blacksmithing anymore, but rather something infinitely closer to the legendary weapon forging. Blacksmithing was only one crucial step. Even more crucial was smelting, the process of refining various ores and materials to extract extremely precious materials. These were also the finest materials, and these materials went beyond just steel. Many were beyond Wei Yi's comprehension, like the alien metals in certain science fiction films of his past life. Their very existence was extremely rare, and their extraction was incredibly difficult. Yet, their properties were equally extraordinary. Furthermore, after smelting and extraction, multiple materials were fused and refined, allowing the materials to blend seamlessly. The result was a material that seemed to possess life itself. This material could even absorb the power of heaven and earth, the essence of the sun and moon, condensing extraordinary strength. With luck, the refined material itself possessed a certain spirituality. As for blacksmithing, forging was merely a shaping process. It didn't significantly improve the material's properties. However, the smelting process required exceptional control over the flame and precise mastery of the material's smelting process. Regarding flame control, Wei Yi had previously gained the mastery of fire ability when his cooking skill reached the 5th level. This upgrade further enhanced Wei Yi's control over flames, as well as the methods for obtaining and using different flames. For example, the smelting of many extraordinary materials may require more than just a simple furnace fire, but also flames generated by special fuels. Even some extraordinary flames born from the very nature of heaven and earth, and so on. Furthermore, after this upgrade, Wei Yi also gained a hammer-based magical power 5-direction violent shock. The key to this magical power lies in the word shock. It is a magical power that can use force to shake the heavens and earth, the void, and all things. It causes everything around it, even space, to vibrate violently. It's somewhat similar to a sonic attack, which resonates with surrounding objects. This vibration can more easily break through enemy defenses, even penetrating defenses, and causing direct damage. It exemplifies the offensive power of a blunt instrument like a hammer. However, this magical power can also be used independently of a hammer. It can be used with fists or swords. It can also generate special vibrations to destroy and injure enemies, but it's not as powerful as a weapon like a hammer. Now that my blacksmithing skills have been upgraded, perhaps I can combine them with the magic of piercing into wood 3 points to forge a true flying sword, Wei Yi thought to himself. However, to forge a spiritual flying sword, the materials and flames required are not simple. Many materials are no longer easily available on the market. It is estimated that only some Taoist masters know where to obtain them. I guess when I have the chance to see Taoist Master Yipin again, I will ask him for a few questions, Wei Yi thought to himself. After breakfast, Wei Yi prepared to go and see the new house with Jiuo Pixiu. Jiuo Pixiu had selected several suitable houses for Wei Yi over the past 2 days, but Wei Yi had not had time to see them, so they agreed to go together today. But just as Wei Yi was about to leave the house, he saw a maid from Miaoinfang disembark from the carriage. Greetings, young Master Wei. This is an invitation from Miss Han Kaiang of Miaoinfang. You weren't able to attend the last boat cruise, and Miss Han Kaiang and the other guests are deeply disappointed. So, tonight, we've specially organized another cruise and invite you to attend. The maid approached Wei Yi and presented him with an invitation. Yes, no problem. Tell Miss Han Kaiang thank you for the invitation. I will definitely attend tonight. Wei Yi accepted the invitation and bowed. After seeing off the Maoin Fang carriage, Wei Yi calmly put the invitation away. Guo Pixiu, standing nearby, was filled with envy. Brother Wei, I'm so envious of you. The two most famous courtesans in this city have both thrown themselves at your feet. If only I could have half as much luck as you. Beauty is a curse, and this good fortune isn't necessarily a good thing. Wei Yi consoled. Shanghaiang City, Jiangxiu Mountain. Nestled among verdant pines and cypresses, a magnificent Taoist temple, with its numerous temples, stood. This was the first Taoist temple established by the Shanren sect in the Great Yan dynasty. It was the sect's starting point, and, to this day, the largest Taoist temple within the Great Yan dynasty. In a relatively secluded room within the temple, several middle-aged monks gathered to discuss the recent war with the Xiangsha alliance. Towards the end of their conversation, one of them mentioned recent events in Kingshao City. According to Elder Gao, the disciples who were killed near Hangxiao's Hao at that time were indeed killed by the fox demon. But there was someone else who killed Jiang Siren and those disciples in the one family, and judging from the wounds, there were 2 murderers in total, and they held different weapons. The preliminary inference is that they are warriors with a cultivation level of at least 4th rank. This must be done by the Xiangsha alliance again. Humph, I didn't expect that the Xiangsha alliance would do everything possible to fight against us, and even started to collude with the fox demon. The Xiangsha alliance has no bottom line and uses all tricks. I didn't expect that Kingshao City would be controlled by the Xiangsha alliance as well. Yeah, we really underestimated this group of rabble. Everyone talked about it. The man who had just reported on the situation in Kingshao City looked at the middle-aged man in the first seat, with grey hair, narrow eyes, and a stern face, and asked, Elder, what do you think we should do next? The situation in Kingshao City is far more serious than we imagined. I'm afraid we'll have to ask an elder of my sect, who is at the Jiandan realm, to take charge. The construction of the Taoist temple will be postponed for now. My sect has made new moves recently. Our main task around Kingshao City is to eliminate the Zhao family, said the middle-aged man known as the Elder. He was Elder Hui Kang of the Shanren sect, and one of its key leaders in the Great Yan dynasty. Chapter 138 Target, Zhao family. Eliminate the Zhao family? Elder Hui Kang's words stirred a commotion among the assembled crowd, each face a flicker of surprise. According to our latest intelligence, one of the main backers of the Xiangsha alliance is Prince Jinggan. Therefore, the events in Kingshao City are undoubtedly the work of the Zhao family. As for the fox demon and the room at Wei Yi, they're merely minor agents used to deceive the public. Without the backing of the Zhao family and the Xiangsha alliance, how could they have the audacity and power to attack the cultivators of the Shanren sect? Elder Hui Kang added. Well, the elder's words make sense. I find it strange too. Rumor has it that Wei Yi, while highly respected in Kingshao City, is merely an ordinary individual. His only notable attribute is his status as a 5th rank swordsmith. How could he possibly possess such immense power? Yes, he's a strong suspect in Wang Yinchang's death, but upon closer inspection, there are also doubts. He and the Wan family have long been enemies, yet he chose not to kill Wang Yinchang sooner or later, only to act after we promoted him to Chamber of Commerce president. It's truly strange. Indeed, in all of Kingshao City, only the Zhao family possesses a 4th rank warrior. This makes the Zhao family the most suspect. Furthermore, the Zhao family's existence is a threat to our cause. We must eliminate them. The crowd discussed, believing that the recent events in Kingshao City were secretly orchestrated by the Zhao family. After all, based on the intelligence they had, it was impossible for an ordinary person, newly ascendant, to possess such immense power and ability. To have killed Wang Yin and more than a dozen cultivators from their own Shanren sect in just 2 days? But then again, the Zhao family is not easy to deal with. After all, they are the most prestigious martial arts family in the Great Yan dynasty. Well, to deal with the Zhao family, we certainly can't do it ourselves. We can just rely on the imperial court. Besides, we are not the only ones in the Great Yan dynasty who want to eliminate the Zhao family. That's right. We can also draw on the power of neighboring countries, the crowd said. Alright, the headmaster will take care of this matter. For now, focus on eradicating the Xianxia alliance. Elder Hui Kang said. Then, changing the subject, he added, by the way, the secret realm within Xuanzang Mountain is about to be opened. Notify all Taoist temples and select 2 outstanding disciples to accompany me. Accompanied by Guo Pixiu, Wei Yi visited several mansions. One of them particularly impressed him. It was said to have once been the mansion of Zhenkong, the magistrate of Zheng County, where he kept his mistress. The location was very quiet, even secluded. The entrance to the mansion looked ordinary, but inside, a world of its own awaited. The entire mansion covered a vast area, with pavilions and towers scattered throughout. The interior also featured elegant gardens and a small lake. The water in this small lake came from a hot spring, so it never froze year-round. Inside a house by the lake was a hot spring pool, where the spring itself lay. From a spring beneath the pool, water continuously gushed forth, and a veil of mist lingered above the entire pool. Wei Yi reached out and touched the water. It was approximately 45 degrees Celsius, a very comfortable temperature. Wei Yi even felt like lying down and soaking in the hot spring. In this cold winter, soaking in a hot spring was truly a pleasurable experience. It must be said that this corrupt official, Zhenkong, truly knew how to enjoy himself. This is it. Wei Yi immediately decided to purchase the mansion. After receiving the deed to the new house, Wei Yi telepathically notified Gu Yu to come over. After killing the celestial cult cultivators, Gu Yu had temporarily left King's House City. After all, she was worried that the celestial cult cultivators would come and find her. Wei Yi meticulously decorated his new home. He then brought in some of his own paintings of mythical beasts and hung them throughout the house to protect it from harm. Just then, Wei Yi's heart stirred, sensing Gu Yu's arrival. However, Gu Yu didn't come directly to Wei Yi. Instead, she walked around the house, taking in all the surroundings, before finally arriving at Wei Yi's room. This house is quite nice. Gu Yu appeared at the doorway. She removed her hood, revealing her charming and alluring features. You'll live here from now on, Wei Yi said. Hearing Wei Yi's words, Gu Yu let out a delicate laugh. She walked over to Wei Yi, placed her delicate hand on his shoulder, and leaned her pretty face close to his ear, saying seductively, "Thank you, sir. But an ordinary house can't hide Jua. The celestial cult cultivators might still find this place, and Jua doesn't want to implicate you. Don't worry, I've installed many aura hiding restrictions in this house. As long as you don't wander around and leave your aura behind, it'll be hard for the celestial cult cultivators to find you," Wei Yi said. He couldn't tell Gu Yu about the secret technique of penetrating deep into the wood, so he used the restrictions instead. "Sir, you're truly thoughtful. That puts my mind at ease. By the way, sir, I just noticed there's a hot spring pool here. Would you like Jua to join you for a swim tonight?" Gu Yu's jade fingers traced Wei Yi's chest a few times, her voice alluring. "Aren't you afraid I'll drain all your cultivation?" Wei Yi asked. "I know you wouldn't be so cruel," Gu Yu said with a delicate smile. "I have things to do tonight. Let's talk another day." Wei Yi patted Gu Yu's hips. He then led her to her bedroom, arranging a relatively secluded space for her. As night fell, Wei Yi arrived by carriage at the West Lake Pier. A pleasure boat was docked there, its strings twanging and melodious singing filling the air. As Wei Yi arrived at the pier, he happened to run into Zhao Hanking. They exchanged greetings and boarded the boat together. Once aboard, Wei Yi, led by a maid, entered the main hall of the pavilion. "Hello, Prince, young Master Wei is here too." Everyone in the hall rose to greet him. Wei Yi glanced at the assembled crowd, smiled meaningfully, and returned the greeting. He knew these individuals were core members of the Xianxia alliance in King's House City. Among them were those Wei Yi knew, such as Du Yujiang and Yu Zhengang, the head of the Yu family. There were also those Wei Yi was less familiar with, likely leaders of various factions within the city. Just then, another burly figure entered. Wei Yi looked curiously, only to be surprised to discover it was Guo Pixiu's father, Guo Dayan. Soon after, the pleasure boat left the dock and headed toward the lake. Everyone continued to listen to music, drink, and chat about trivial matters in a tacit understanding. Once the pleasure boat reached the center of the lake, Mr. Gong summoned everyone to the private room behind the pavilion to prepare for the evening's activities. Simultaneously, 3 smaller boats approached the pleasure boat. Each boat had a member board the boat and proceed directly to the private room. One of these visitors was the leader of the King's House City Patrol Battalion. Another was Wu Yun, the prefectural governor. And the last was Zhao Jinsi. Wei Yi was slightly surprised to see these 3. He had never expected that among the core members of the Xiangsha Alliance, there were officials. Although the leader held only a minor position within the patrol battalion, even a small official was still an official. He could play a significant role at a crucial moment. As for Tangxi Wu Yun, he is the second in command of the government office, so it goes without saying that he can play a greater role. And Zhao Jinsi's arrival was indeed a bit unexpected for Wei Yi. But on second thought, she is Tu Shaoling's student, and she cares about her country and the world, and hates the Shinran sect for disrupting the government. So it is not surprising that she can become a member of the Xiangsha League. The update time will be changed to 12 noon and 8 PM in the future. Thank you for your support. Thank you to Anyi for awarding 1000 starting coins, and thank you for your monthly tickets. Chapter 139 Community of Interests. In fact, everyone present was also a little surprised when they saw Wu Yun, Zhao Jinsi, and the others. In fact, today was the first time all the core members had gathered together. Previously, they hadn't known who in the city was a member of the Xiangsha Alliance. They had all been secretly communicating with Mr. Gong or certain contacts directly. Furthermore, those present today weren't all members of the Xiangsha Alliance in King's House City. They were only the most core and trustworthy. Everyone is here, and tonight's meeting has officially begun. Mr. Gong stood up and said, "Today is the first gathering of the core members of the Xiangsha Alliance in King's House City. I'm sure many of you are only just now learning about our allies in the city. Many of you here should already be familiar with each other, but please allow me to introduce you all." Mr. Gong introduced the identities of everyone present one by one, and everyone finally got to know each other thoroughly. After introducing all the members, Mr. Gong paused and continued, "Previously, I've communicated with each of you privately, coordinating certain tasks. You haven't had any direct interaction or contact with each other, and you weren't even aware of each other's existence. Furthermore, our missions were limited. But circumstances have compelled me to unite everyone's strength, rallying them as a team, to face the dire situation that may lie ahead. As everyone knows, the Celestial Cult has extended its reach into King's House City, and the conflict between our Xiangsha Alliance and the Celestial Cult has fully commenced. The situation on the border is currently grim, and the situation at court is even more dire. Rumor has it that Emperor Yanjing is preparing to abdicate. The ascension of the new emperor will undoubtedly bring another bloody storm, and enemy nations will be waiting for opportunities to strike. Therefore, with winter approaching, we must band together for warmth, safeguarding the peace of King's House City, and resisting the Celestial Cult's invasion." At Mr. Gong's words, everyone nodded, but their expressions grew solemn. They were all aware of the unfolding situation, and its impact on each of them was immense. When the nest is overturned, no egg remains unbroken. Although most of them were leaders of certain factions, they were insignificant compared to major sects like the Shinran sect, or even entire nations. Only by pooling everyone's strength could they overcome difficulties in times of turmoil. A country cannot be without a king, an army cannot be without a commander, and our King's House City Xiangsha Alliance cannot be without a leader. Therefore, today I would like to nominate a virtuous person to serve as the deputy leader of our King's House City Xiangsha Alliance. In the future, he will lead us to fight against the Shinran sect and protect King's House City together. Upon hearing Mr. Gong's words, most of the people present almost simultaneously turned their attention to Wei Yi. After all, Mr. Gong had already discussed this matter privately with many of the people present. They all recognized Wei Yi, having witnessed the events of the past few days. Although I've been in charge of the Xiangsha Alliance before, my expertise lies in intelligence gathering and information transmission, not war. Leading troops in battle requires a talented leader, So after discussing this with many members, everyone unanimously agrees that Wei Yi is the best choice. Upon hearing Mr. Gong's words, everyone present nodded, looking at Wei Yi with beaming smiles. After all, Wei Yi's ability to defeat the celestial beings' cultivators was enough to convince them. It was like being on a boat in a stormy sea. While everyone was in this together, they all hoped for a truly capable helmsman, capable of leading them through the storm, finding direction, and securing survival. Furthermore, everyone is well aware of what has been happening in King's House City recently. If it weren't for young Master Wei's efforts to turn the tide, King's House City would have almost fallen into the hands of the Celestial Beings sect. Yes, Mr. Gong is right. Young Master Wei truly deserves the position. Guo Dayan spoke first. Indeed, without young Master Wei, we'd be unsure how to deal with those celestial beings. Yu Zhengang echoed. Indeed, I agree with Mr. Gong's proposal. I'm convinced that young Master Wei should serve as vice leader. Another echoed. The others nodded in agreement, looking at Wei Yi with approval. After all, the results were there. To have so swiftly eliminated Wang Yin and a dozen celestial beings cultivators was something none of them present could have accomplished. Even if they had joined forces, they might not have been able to pull it off. Furthermore, among them was a late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator. They still couldn't understand how Wei Yi had managed it. Naturally, they were convinced. Young Master Wei, please say a few words. Mr. Gong said, looking at Wei Yi with a broad smile. Wei Yi stood up, his expression serious. He bowed to everyone present before speaking. First, thank you all for your recognition and kindness. I'm humbled. But since you've placed this responsibility and trust in me, I will naturally do my best to live up to your trust and support. As the saying goes, the fate of the nation rests with every man. We are not saints, and we don't need to be selfless and sacrifice ourselves for the people of the world. But we can fight for ourselves, for our loved ones, for our homes, and for the passions within our hearts. Just like me, everything I do is simply to protect what I love, and the peace of King's House City. That's all. Wei Yi's words were firm and profoundly realistic, resonating with everyone. He refrained from empty slogans or unrealistic or far-fetched assumptions. This was because most of those present were seasoned and mature, long past the age of impulsive passion. What they care about is often the most practical, fundamental, and simplest things. Their own gains and losses, their loved ones, and the things they care about, nothing more. Concepts like family, country, and the greater good of the people hold no meaning for them. Moreover, the Xiangsha alliances, frankly, a community of shared interests, not unlike the alliances between nations in modern society. It's incomparable to sects and other powerful forces. So-called beliefs and lofty ideals are sheer nonsense. Maintaining and leading these people relies not on rules, laws, or ideals, but on shared interests, realistic, shared interests. Therefore, upon hearing Wei Yi's words, everyone present felt a deeper appreciation for him, and felt more confident handing him the position of Vice Alliance leader. If their previous acceptance of Wei Yi was simply based on his strength and military achievements, now it was his calm demeanor and mature outlook that drew their approval. Despite the onset of chaos and the spread of war, everyone hoped for a martial arts master to lead them through the encirclement. But if this person is also an outstanding military strategist, politician, or even a virtuous person who knows how to appoint people to positions, then naturally, one would be even more convinced. Chapter 140 Inside Information. After the solemn meeting, everyone began a free-flowing conversation, connecting with each other, and deepening their understanding. Afterward, everyone returned to the hall, where they listened to music, drank, and continued to mingle. But Wei Yi, naturally, remained the center of attention. Deputy Alliance Leader, I offer you a toast. Du Yujiang approached Wei Yi and raised his glass. Looking at Wei Yi now, he felt a surge of emotion. Thinking back to when he first met Wei Yi seemed like only yesterday. Yet, in the blink of an eye, Wei Yi had completely changed. This profound change even made him feel as if he were in a different world. While he had initially believed Wei Yi had a promising future, he had never imagined Wei Yi would achieve such incredible success today. Manager Du, please call me Wei Yi. The title of Alliance Leader sounds too formal. Wei Yi too raised his glass, humbly saying, he's very self-aware. He knew that the so-called Deputy Alliance Leader was just a title. To put it bluntly, everyone respected you and called you Alliance Leader. They would take your lead and obey your orders. But you can't get carried away and forget the basics. Moreover, Du Jiang is both his benefactor and his friend. No, this rule can't be broken. We can address each other however we want in private, but at this moment, I, Du, must address you as Deputy Alliance Leader. Come, I'll drink first as a gesture of respect. Du Jiang said happily. He was delighted that Wei Yi hadn't forgotten him as a friend. But as he'd said, since everyone was gathered together as members of the Xiangsha Alliance, they had to abide by the rules. Wei Yi joined him for a drink and chatted with Du Jiang for a while. By the way, shopkeeper Du, I need some sword making materials. Could you, through your connections at the Wanjian Pavilion, help me find some? Wei Yi suddenly said. After upgrading his blacksmithing skills, Wei Yi planned to forge 2 higher quality swords. However, he needed ores and materials that were difficult to find commercially. Therefore, he had to mobilize everyone's help to find them. After all, the Wanjian Pavilion was one of the largest sword shops in the Great Yan Dynasty. It surely had the most comprehensive access to the various materials. What materials do you need? Du Jiang looked at Wei Yi with a hint of surprise. Normally, the materials for the 5-beaded sword should be readily available. Wei Yi didn't hesitate, immediately telling Du Jiang the several minerals he needed. Hearing Wei Yi's words, Du Jiang couldn't help but be even more surprised. Wei Yi, have your skills improved again? Du Jiang's expression was a little excited, and he even subconsciously changed his address. He had heard of the materials Wei Yi had just mentioned. Those were the materials for forging the 9-beaded sword, and one of them was even new to him. Wei Yi's sudden request for these materials could only mean one thing: his blacksmithing skills had improved again. He might even have become a master swordsmith. Yes, it has, Wei Yi said with a smile. Du Jiang nodded, looking at Wei Yi with admiration. Even if Wei Yi had a master behind him, his rate of improvement was truly astonishing. I can help you buy some of the materials you mentioned, but the red goldstone is the core ingredient for crafting the 9-bead sword, and it's also a mineral forbidden by the imperial court for civilian use. Therefore, it's difficult to obtain through regular channels, and can only be found on the black market. But don't worry, I know where to buy it. It's just that I've never heard of the azure dragonstone you mentioned. Perhaps I'm uninformed, but I'll do my best to find out for you. You can also ask Mr. Gong later to inquire about it as well, Du Jiang said sincerely. Okay, then I'll trouble you, shopkeeper Du. Come, let's have a toast. Wei Yi and Du Jiang drank a few glasses, and the others joined in toasting Wei Yi. Deputy Alliance Leader, the medicinal wine you brew is truly miraculous, but it's a shame it's so difficult to obtain. I have a humble request. Could you please give me a favor, so I can buy more at once? Yu Zhengang said with a beaming smile. Of course, that's no problem. However, the medicinal herbs needed to make the wine are enormous, and many are hard to come by, so the supply is always insufficient. I hope Master Yu will be able to help us in the future. Of course. If the Alliance Leader needs any herbs in the future, just tell me, and I guarantee you'll have as much as you want. Deputy Alliance Leader, I'll toast you again. Yu Zhengang said with a smile. Deputy Alliance Leader, I'll toast you too. Jiuo Dayan, who was standing beside him, also raised his glass. Late at night, Zhao Jinsi, Wu Yun, and the others left by boat, and the pleasure boat docked. Everyone disembarked, drunken, and took their respective carriages home. But Wei Yi remained on the pleasure boat, along with Han Kaiang, Mr. Gong, and the warriors assigned to protect Mr. Gong and Han Kaiang. The pleasure boat left the dock again, and sailed into the center of the lake. Mr. Gong had kept Wei Yi aboard, naturally intending to hold a title conferring ceremony for him. In fact, when Wei Yi joined the Xiangsha Alliance, he had already gone through some simple ceremonies, such as swearing an oath to heaven and earth not to betray the Xiangsha Alliance or its allies. But back then, it was merely a formality to join the Xiangsha Alliance as an ally. This time, with his appointment as vice leader, he was truly considered a member of the Xiangsha Alliance. The difference was like that between a registered disciple and an inner disciple in a sect. In Wei Yi's previous life on Blue Planet, it was the difference between being a registered disciple and not. This conferring ceremony was simple, somewhat akin to a blood oath, with blood dripped onto a number of spiritual living stones. After the simple ceremony, Mr. Gong also presented Wei Yi with the Vice Leader token. On the surface, the token looked like an ordinary jade pendant, but it bore the Xianxia Alliance's mark, a mark recognized only by those at the rank of Hall Master and above. For true Xianxia Alliance members, this token served as absolute proof of identity and represented absolute authority. It was a token that truly exercised certain rights. Furthermore, the jade pendant was a magical instrument, activated with blood, similar to a blood oath of recognition. Once activated, this token is completely bound to its owner. Upon the owner's death, the token automatically shatters. If it is more than 500 meters away from the owner's body, the token will also shatter. Furthermore, this token can communicate with other holders of this token within a radius of 100 kilometers, allowing them to locate each other. Mr. Gong then reintroduced Wei Yi to the Xianxia Alliance. Now a true member of the Xianxia Alliance, Wei Yi has the right and the need to know certain things that other members of the Alliance are not. This includes the Alliance's history, organizational structure, and core objectives. The original founder of the Xianxia Alliance was Prince Qi, the eldest son of Emperor Yanjing. His initial purpose was naturally to fight for the throne, but also to counter the then current Shanren cult faction. However, after Prince Qi's murder, the 9th princess, Shan Ruoshu, took over. She further expanded the Xianxia Alliance's influence and further clarified its goals to eliminate Shanren cult influence in the court and restore the Great Yan dynasty. Therefore, although the current leader of the Xianxia Alliance is the owner of Xianxia Mountain Villa, he is actually a close friend of Prince Qi and now a trusted confidant of the 9th princess. Chapter 141 Abdicate the Throne. Wei Yi hadn't expected the Xianxia Alliance to be a product of a struggle for imperial power. But come to think of it, in a world like this, aside from the sects and creeds, the imperial power holds the greatest sway. Without the backing of royalty and nobles, it would be difficult for ordinary people to establish such a large organization. Relying solely on a few underworld forces and guerrillas, they would be nothing more than a motley crew, unable to achieve anything significant. They might even have been wiped out shortly after their emergence, making it difficult for them to grow to their current size, let alone contend with a force like the Shanren sect. After all, the Shanren sect is a powerful sect and state religion, enjoying numerous privileges. They also control the court and wield significant power. Ordinary forces wouldn't even be qualified to compete with them, let alone become their rivals. The rumors about Emperor Yanjing's abdication aren't groundless. The news shouldn't be long before it's public. This is likely related to the Shanren sect's upcoming plans. Mr. Gong continued his discussion of matters at court. After all, this concerns the situation within the Great Yan dynasty and the actions of the Shanren sect. Although the Shanren sect's motives for this are still unclear, they are definitely not doing good. Furthermore, even though you eliminated their cultivators this time, the Shanren sect has remained unusually silent. They haven't taken any follow-up action, simply removing the bodies from here. This is highly unusual. In the past, if anyone dared to kill their cultivators, they would never let it go. Therefore, the more unusual their behavior, the more it suggests this is the calm before the storm. They are undoubtedly plotting something larger, so we must be prepared for the storm at any moment. Hearing Mr. Gong's words, Wei Yi nodded silently. He couldn't help but ponder the Shanren sect's true intentions and plots. As far as he knew, Emperor Yanjing had reigned for over 50 years, but he was also a giant and cultivator. According to the lifespan of giant and cultivators, he was still in his prime. While there were emperors in history who voluntarily abdicated the throne and entered into seclusion, these were rare cases, and only in the presence of a suitable successor. However, Emperor Yanjing had never appointed a crown prince. He didn't even have many offspring, with some dying, others disabled, and those who remained largely unworthy of their positions. Emperor Yanjing had devoted himself to spiritual cultivation over the years, producing few children. Therefore, there were currently no suitable heirs to the throne within the palace. The prospect of abdicating the throne at this time was even more intriguing. We'll just have to adapt, Wei Yi said. After all, even the Xianxia Alliance's intelligence network couldn't penetrate the inside story. So, they could only take it one step at a time and adapt accordingly. Yes, that's true. However, Deputy Alliance Leader, you'd better be extra cautious during this period. The Shinran cult might prioritize the greater good and disregard a minor setback for their larger schemes. However, there's no ruling that those within the sect who are close to Jiang Siren might secretly seek revenge on you, so you should remain vigilant. Mr. Gong said earnestly. Well, don't worry, I'll protect myself. Wei Yi nodded. Wei Yi then inquired further about the court and the Shinran cult. He needed a more detailed understanding of his enemies and the world he inhabited. Only then could he unravel the myriad threads of information and find the answers he sought. He also learned everything about Shachen from Mr. Gong, including some details about the Zuanjing division. He realized that everything Shachen had done in Kingshao City was to investigate an unsolved case, to provide closure for his fallen master and brothers. Wei Yi admired Shachen's loyalty, but was also curious about the truth behind the bride case. However, considering that the power to abolish the Zuanjing division must have been linked to the Shinran cult, the Zuanjing division was a powerful sword in the emperor's wield. Bringing down such a privileged organization was beyond the reach of ordinary people. Wei Yi suspected that the bride case might also be part of a Shinran cult conspiracy. After spending a night on the pleasure boat, Wei Yi gained much of the information he sought. He gained a new and more comprehensive understanding of his country and the world he inhabited. It was as if he had transitioned from holding a compass to holding a navigation app. Deep in the Qingqiu Mountains, beneath a canyon shrouded in mist, lies a paradise. Various exotic flowers and plants abound. A sea of flowers covers the mountains, and rare birds and animals occasionally pass through the jungle. Beside a crystal clear stream sits a wooden house that seems to blend in with the mountains and forests. The exterior walls of the wooden house are covered with vines and flowers, and if you don't look closely, you can't even tell it's a wooden house. Inside the room, Xiaoli was looking at her haggard, pale-lipped senior sister with a face full of worry. An old man with white hair and beard was using his magic power to heal her senior sister's injuries. After a long time, the woman in the purple dress looked a little better, and her face was much rosier. The old man wiped the sweat from his forehead and sighed. The poison should be mostly eliminated this time, but the chilling energy has invaded the internal organs and meridians, like a thorn in the flesh. It can't be completely eliminated, only suppressed. From now on, Ziyu will have to endure the same painful attacks of the cold poison as your master. Thank you for your hard work, Sangbo. Xiaoli looked at the old man with tears in her eyes, and said with a fist. That day, they returned to the cave abode from Kingshao City, only to find it occupied by ghost cultivators from Jiuan Mountain. They too were surrounded by the ghost cultivators of Jiuan Mountain. The ghost king of Jiuan Mountain and her master, Wei, were sworn enemies. Her master's cold poison was the result of the ghost king's unique skill, the 9 yin cold claws. She had been tormented by the cold for hundreds of years. Although they were surrounded by ghost cultivators from Jiuan Mountain and the Ghost King was absent, the two of them were outnumbered. During their breakout, Ziyu subdued one of the powerful ghost cultivators, who had used the 9 yin cold claws, and contracted the cold poison. Fortunately, they were saved by the old man at the critical moment. Sangbo was a spirit that was cultivated from a mulberry tree, and he was a close friend of their master. In the past 2 days, Sangbo repeatedly detoxified and healed Ziyu, and only then did he save her life. But as he said, the cold air invaded the body's internal organs, and could not be eliminated. Xiaoli also learned a piece of news from Sangbo that made her even more sad. Their master Wei had died at the hands of the Ghost King. At the beginning, the master knew that the Ghost King of Jiuan Mountain was about to come out of retreat, and had already entered the nascent soul stage, and would definitely seek revenge on her. So he used an excuse to send her and Ziyu away, and then burned his boats, and attacked the nascent soul stage, but he still failed. The Ghost King of Jiuan Mountain had already entered the nascent soul stage, and his strength was no longer what it used to be. In the end, Wei was defeated and died at the hands of the Ghost King. It's rumored that the golden leaf red sun grass can completely cure this cold poison. Unfortunately, this elixir is so rare. However, the secret realm within Xuanzang Mountain is about to open. I plan to enter and seek opportunities. Perhaps I can find this golden leaf red sungrass, Sangbo continued. Xia only nodded, but her expression remained solemn. She had also heard her master talk about this elixir. But if it was so easy to obtain, her master wouldn't have suffered from the cold poison for 100 years. So she didn't dare to hold out too much hope. By the way, while I'm in the secret realm, if the use cold poison flares up, I can use the blood and essence of a pure yang man to suppress it. Sangbo paused and continued. Chapter 142 Cooking Skill Upgrade. Amidst the hazy mist, flesh clashed relentlessly. Milky white juices were squeezed out, gradually thickening amidst the swirling waves. It exuded an intoxicating aroma. Young master, you're amazing. Gu Yu, her forehead dripping with sweat, exclaimed with a hint of excitement. Keep pushing, don't stop. Yes, a little harder. Okay, just like that. Hold on, it'll be ready soon. Wei Yi stood at the stove, waving a spatula, stirring the white broth in the pot as he spoke. Gu Yu squatted beside him, pumping the bellows vigorously, fanning the flames to a fierce crescendo. The broth in the pot roiled violently, and the fish and abalone in it seemed on the verge of melting. Soon, Wei Yi poured his homemade sauce into the thick broth, instantly tinting the white broth with a golden hue. It was like the morning sun tinting the clouds red, giving the broth a vibrant, mouth-watering color. Waves of fragrance, accompanied by the mist, filled the kitchen, making Gu Yu swallow involuntarily. Wei Yi had been feeding the beast-eared girl to her heart's content for the past 2 days, even leaving her feeling a little weak. So, every day, he would prepare some excellent medicinal dishes to nourish Gu Yu's body. This had completely captivated the beast-eared girl's taste buds. However, her cooking skills were already nearing a successful advancement. Wei Yi felt that another feast tonight would further enhance her culinary skills. 3 dishes and a soup were served one after another, and Wei Yi and Gu Yu went to the dining room to begin their meal. Gu Yu licked her lips, her mouth watering as she gazed at the dishes on the table. Come on, chopsticks. Hearing Wei Yi's command, Gu Yu finally picked up her chopsticks and began to devour the food. The delicious and rich flavors filled Gu Yu's taste buds with immense satisfaction. As the food entered her stomach, warm energy seemed to instantly dissolve, flowing through her body, nourishing her body and mind, leaving her feeling relaxed and at ease. During this time, the Shanren cult incident seemed to have been gradually forgotten, and King's House City seemed to have returned to its former tranquility. However, Wei Yi knew that the situation on the border seemed to be growing increasingly tense, and the situation in the court was even more volatile. The current calm was like a soap bubble floating in the air, ready to burst at any moment. After lunch with Gu Yu, Wei Yi went to the winery again to participate in the brewing of a new batch of Lanling wine, continuing to improve his proficiency. His winner-making skills were about to advance, and it would only take a day or 2. Moreover, his interactions with Gu Yu had also greatly increased his proficiency in bedroom skills and beast taming skills, and they were also on the verge of upgrading. After returning home from the winery, Wei Yi retreated to his study to work on his painting skills. But soon after, Du Yujiang arrived at the Wei residence, accompanied by 2 young men, and carrying a large wooden box. Upon hearing the servant's announcement, Wei Yi was delighted, and immediately guessed that Du Yujiang had helped him procure the necessary mineral materials. He immediately went out to greet him. Just as he'd suspected, Du Yujiang had indeed helped him obtain the several types of ores he needed. It had to be said that the Wanjian Pavilion's resources in this area were quite impressive. Now with these ores, he could forge a new sword. Thank you so much, shopkeeper Du. By the way, how much are these ores? Wei Yi asked gratefully. Over 1,600 taels. It's mainly because the red goldstone is very expensive on the black market. Du Yujiang replied. He didn't hesitate to refuse the money. After all, these ores were valuable, and he knew Wei Yi couldn't afford it. Given their relationship, there was no need for pretense of politeness. If he refused to accept the money, the other party would be embarrassed to ask for his help again. Okay, I'll get it for you right away. Wei Yi quickly produced a 2,000 tael silver note and handed it to Du Yujiang. Why so much? 1,600 taels is enough. Take it. Consider it a deposit with you. I'll need you again if I need any more ores in the future, Wei Yi said with a smile. Okay, I'll store it for you. If you run low on ore, let me know. Du Yujiang was no longer polite. After seeing Du Yujiang off, Wei Yi returned to his painting skills. By evening, Wei Yi had cooked dinner, and his cooking proficiency had successfully reached the promotion standard. But just as he finished, Liu sent someone over to invite him to a dance. Having not seen Liu dance in a few days, Wei Yi was itching to try again. Besides, he couldn't let Gu Yu handle all the bedroom skills alone. So, after a quick grooming, Wei Yi headed for Hangxia's Heio. Of course, Wei Yi knew Liu's invitation to visit meant she had new information to share. Just as Wei Yi had suspected, upon arriving at Hangxia's Heio, Liu shared a significant piece of news. Emperor Yanjing had announced that he would abdicate the throne to his nephew, Shanshan Fang, at the beginning of next month, and hold a coronation ceremony. The news hadn't reached King's House City yet, but it should reach there by tomorrow at the latest. This outcome was indeed unexpected for Wei Yi. Although he had known that Emperor Yanjing would abdicate, he hadn't expected the successor to be someone other than his own son. There are still 6 days until the new emperor ascends the throne, but who exactly is this Shanshan Fang? Wei Yi asked gravely. He had never heard of Shanshan Fang. He's a direct disciple of the head of the Shinran sect. He's never participated in government affairs before, and rarely appears in public, so many people haven't heard of him. Liu said as she poured Wei Yi tea. Wei Yi nodded. This wasn't surprising. The Shinran sect was definitely trying to support one of its own to ascend to the throne. It was unclear whether Emperor Yanjing's abdication was forced or voluntary. Regardless, everything was set in stone. It all depended on the Shinran sect's next move. The new emperor's ascension was surely just the beginning. How the situation would develop would depend on a one-by-one approach. Wei Yi absolutely didn't believe that Emperor Yanjing's abdication wasn't a conspiracy. But in Wei Yi's view, whatever the conspiracy, the Shinran sect was hastening its own demise. The future of the Great Yan dynasty belonged to Wei Yi and the Confucian scholars. After discussing the latest intelligence, the atmosphere in the private room grew somewhat somber. Liu then performed 2 erotic dances for Wei Yi, helping him to refresh his mind and cultivate his spirit. Late at night, as Liu, exhausted from her energizing, slumped into a deep sleep, Wei Yi, on a whim, began upgrading his cooking skills. However, before falling asleep, he summoned Xiangyu to guard the hall for his safety. After all, while upgrading, he would be unconscious for a period of time. With Xiangyu's protection, Wei Yi felt reassured. Furthermore, Xiangyu could conceal himself in poetry at any time, completely unafraid of detection. As a familiar feeling washed over him, Wei Yi gradually drifted off to sleep, his eyes moving rapidly, and every muscle in his body seemed to tremble slightly. Thanks to Dark Knight Star and Celtic, each of whom donated 500 Kidian coins. Thank you all for your monthly votes. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 143, Air Food Cooking. When Wei Yi awoke again, he felt as if the world had changed. It was as if the scents in the room had become incredibly rich, each one intensely intense. The distinct aromas of wooden furniture, the odors from the incense burner, the various spices in the sachets, the various floral scents and rouge on Liu's body, even her own body odor, as well as the odors of some residual liquids, were clearly perceptible. He could smell and distinguish each scent distinctly. The variety of scents that filled the room was countless. However, it wasn't the world that had changed, but Wei Yi himself. It was the upgraded cooking skill that had brought about a heightened sensory ability. With his cooking skill reaching the 6th level, Wei Yi's senses of smell and taste had increased by over 1,000 times, becoming truly extraordinary. He could easily detect and distinguish even the subtlest odors. He had even gained the experience of tasting 100 herbs. He knew the properties, flavors, textures, and uses of every medicinal herb and every ingredient in the world. and these ingredients weren't limited to those edible or beneficial to humans. This also includes those that are edible to other creatures, but harmful to humans and therefore inedible. In short, he knows a vast majority of medicinal herbs and food ingredients in the world like the back of his hand. He can even detect them by smell and taste. In other words, even if there's a poison in food or the air, he can immediately detect it through smell and taste. He also clearly understands the interactions between various ingredients. He knows how to combine different ingredients to create poisons and antidotes. Through different combinations, he can unleash a myriad of magical effects from these ingredients. This is essentially no different from medicine. With this experience and skill, Wei Yi feels that, aside from being unable to treat illnesses, he has surpassed most doctors in the world in prescribing the right medicine. Furthermore, he has also acquired a magical power known as key food cooking. It's called a magical power because it transcends human capabilities and possesses extraordinary power. Using this magical power to cook food, he can extract the essence of the ingredients to the maximum extent possible. Furthermore, he can absorb the essence of the sun and moon, the key of heaven and earth, and so on, condensing them into the pot during cooking. This was indistinguishable from the alchemy techniques of cultivators. Furthermore, it was also aimed squarely at the advanced alchemy techniques used to create elixirs. The only difference was the form. Using the key food cooking technique, the food produced could possess extraordinary benefits. Prolonging life and strengthening the body were the most basic benefits. It could even transform someone completely, cleansing their hair and marrow. Given the right conditions, Wei Yi could simply cook a table of dishes, transforming an ordinary person into a warrior capable of lifting a tripod or shattering stone with a punch. This was truly extraordinary. In the future, he could mass produce warriors using only his own cooking. While dishes cooked with this magical power alone might not produce top-tier warriors, granting those originally unable to cultivate martial arts the strength and physique of a warrior was already a formidable feat. Examples included his uncle, aunt, and sister, as well as Du Shaoling, Su Zhe, and the students who wrote the book. Moreover, Wei Yi felt that, if this momentum continued, and his cooking skills continued to improve, he might even be able to feed an extraordinary warrior with just a single table of food. News of Emperor Yanjing's abdication reached Kingshao City, causing quite a stir. But most people simply dismissed it as a novelty, especially those living at the bottom of society, who paid little attention. After all, they couldn't grasp the implications. Their sole concern was whether the new emperor's ascension would improve or worsen their lives. However, for intellectuals and thoughtful individuals like Du Shaoling and Su Zhe, the news brought only endless worry. The fact that Emperor Yanjing, in his prime, abdicated the throne to his nephew, rather than his own son, was in itself a negative sign. It seemed that Emperor Yanjing had truly been completely controlled by the celestial being cult. Within the imperial family, there were many more suitable heirs than Shanshai and Fang. For example, Emperor Yanjing's younger brother, the Prince of Jin, who shared a mother, and the Prince of Jin's eldest and second sons, were all more suitable candidates than Shanshai and Fang. Furthermore, Shanshai and Fang was a direct disciple of the celestial being cult's leader, a fact that inevitably sparked speculation. If Emperor Yanjing was previously obsessed with cultivation, he even proclaimed the Shinran sect the state religion, granting them excessive privileges and exorbitant status. This allowed the Shinran sect to become arrogant and disrupt the government, but imperial power remained in Emperor Yanjing's hands. But now, it seems the Shinran sect has taken over, able to influence the selection of the great Yan dynasty's emperor. Imperial power appears to have fallen completely into the hands of the Shinran sect. The difference between the two is enormous, and the harm they bring is on a completely different level. The former merely disrupts the government, while the latter constitutes a conspiracy against the state. Of course, all of this is speculation and conjecture. But where there are such signs, there are such possibilities, which is why people are uneasy. That afternoon, Prince Jingan, far away at the western border, also received an imperial edict. It summoned him and General Lin Hang to return to the capital to report and prepare for the coronation ceremony. Prince Jingan Zhaoshi considered the imperial edict in his hands, his brows cast in a state of deep worry. Putting aside the numerous dangerous signals and unfavorable factors revealed by Emperor Yanjing's abdication, let alone the numerous dangerous signals and unfavorable factors, the situation on the border is tense now. The Zilan Kingdom and the Human Kingdom are allied, their armies approaching, and war is imminent. Leaving the barracks with General Lin at this time, and returning to the capital to report and attend the coronation ceremony would be detrimental to morale and even the military. It would also give the enemy an opportunity to exploit. Furthermore, Emperor Yanjing's unusual abdication would inevitably lead to rumors, which could easily shake the military and undermine morale. If war breaks out, without General Lin and himself, he will be worried. Although his eldest son, Zhao Ziyan, is also an outstanding general and capable of leading the charge, the army also has several other loyal, brave, and skilled veterans. But without General Lin and himself, the army would lose the exceptional combat power of 2 third-grade warriors and a key pillar of support. However, this is a sensitive period, with the new emperor ascending the throne. If he disobeyed the order, he might be accused of treason. This would also give the Shinran cult a legitimate reason to take action against the Zhao family. The 3 great martial arts families of the Great Yan dynasty were already balancing each other, not to mention the unwavering loyalty of the Ni family. This Ni family was also a top-tier martial arts family, with numerous masters within its ranks. No matter how valiant and skilled his Zhao family's army was, it couldn't withstand being attacked from all sides. It couldn't simultaneously face the imperial court, the Shinran sect, the Ni family, and the external coalition of enemy nations. As for betraying the country, Zhao Shi absolutely couldn't do it. He could die, but he would never be a traitor, and he certainly wouldn't let even an inch of land fall into enemy hands. So, despite the current unfavorable border situation and his numerous grievances against the imperial court and the royal family, he had no choice but to temporarily put aside his prejudices, the war, and return to the capital to report. Meanwhile, Zhao Ziyan, observing the solemn expression on Prince Jinggan's face, clasped his fists and said, "Father, don't worry. I and the soldiers will definitely hold Yukshan Pass." Thanks to Celtic for the 500 starting coins reward. Thank you all for your support. Chapter 144 National Destiny, Subscription Request. 2 days later, Prince Jinggan and General Lin Hong left the camp and returned to the capital to report. Shortly after their departure, a snowstorm swept through Yukshan Pass. The biting cold made the soldiers defending the city miserable. But they dared not relax, remaining on high alert, ready for battle at any moment. In contrast to the bitter cold on the city walls, the barracks and the armory, where weapons were being forged, were bustling with activity. The scorching blacksmith furnaces kept the barracks warm, and the blacksmiths sweated profusely, some even bare-chested, as the clanging of iron clatter filled the air. Wei Tieshan was among them, his perspiration pouring down as he hammered away. Although Wei Tieshan had become an assistant master craftsman, the urgent war situation meant he joined the craftsmen in their efforts to produce the weapons. Although the work had been arduous, the thought of taking leave in a month to return home and celebrate the spring festival with his family filled him with energy and anticipation. Far away in King's House City, however, Wei Zhu and Wei King were also eagerly anticipating the arrival of the spring festival and Wei Tieshan's return. "I really hope time will pass quickly, so Dad can return soon," Wei King said, consulting the almanac. "This time it's really coming soon," Wei Zhu also said with anticipation. But she also secretly said, "May God bless Tieshan and ensure his safe and sound return this time." For the past 2 days, Wei Yi had been shuttling between the academy and the old house. Because Du Shaoling was going to the Yuanshan Academy in Hengzhou to teach the students there, Wei Yi had sent Du Shaoling many personal items. He even taught him the Song of Geisha, allowing him to summon Xiang Yu's heroic spirit in crucial moments. After all, the Great Yan dynasty was currently unstable, and although Du Shaoling possessed the magical power of a brilliant pen, Wei Yi still hoped to provide him with more means of survival. Du Shaoling was crucial to his development of Confucianism, and he generously empowered him. Yuanshan Academy was one of the 3 major academies in the Great Yan dynasty, boasting a large student population and even larger than King Feng Academy. Its principal was a former student of Du Shaoling. Furthermore, Wei Yi's poems had long been circulated throughout many cities of the Great Yan dynasty through the mouths of scholars and scholars. Consequently, Wei Yi had many admirers within Yuanshan Academy, the principal being one of them. Du Shaoling's visit this time was to teach them, allowing them to study Wei Yi's poems and quotations. He hoped to provide more students with the opportunity to join the Confucian Academy in the future and cultivate more like-minded individuals. He believed that these individuals would become the backbone of the Great Yan dynasty, fighting alongside them to accomplish the great mission of eradicating treacherous officials and restoring the country. Du Shaoling had officially departed yesterday, so Wei Yi did not visit the academy today. Instead, he continued to build new smelting furnaces and blacksmith forges in the old house. After all, the previous equipment could no longer meet his current needs. Wei Yi had already confirmed this during his conversation with Du Yujiang that day. After this upgrade, he had reached the level of a first-grade master swordsmith. The swords he could forge would be at least 9 bead level, so he planned to forge 2 swords for himself, Ganjiang and Mo Yi. Now that the materials were complete, all that was left was to upgrade the equipment before construction could begin. Inside a palace somewhere in the capital, a middle-aged man in splendid attire stood before a screen and bowed. Master, Zhaoxi and Lin Hang have already left for the capital. Well, very good, let's begin as planned. By the way, send a bottle of Shenglangdan to Yundinghao, a man's voice called from behind the screen. Yes, the splendidly dressed middle-aged man replied, and then immediately left the palace. A moment later, a man and a woman emerged from behind the screen. The man was young and handsome, dressed in a dragon robe. His face was gentle, but his eyes held a sharpness and depth that seemed at odds with his appearance. If Prince Jinggan were present, he would undoubtedly have recognized him as Shanshai Fang, the soon-to-be emperor. The woman, meanwhile, was dressed in exquisite court attire. It framed her slender figure, making her look regal. Her face was also remarkably beautiful, with a radiant, captivating beauty, like a celestial being. Master, disciple. The woman just opened her mouth when she was interrupted by Shanshai Fang. You should change your words in the future. Yes, your majesty. The woman responded respectfully, then adjusted her mood and said, Your Majesty, I don't understand why you have to get rid of the Zhao family. Although the Zhao family is a top martial arts family, it does not pose any threat to our Shinran sect. The Zhao family has what I want, and they want to seize the national destiny and dragon veins of the Great Yan dynasty. Not only the Zhao family, but several martial arts families must be eliminated. If I hadn't changed this body, my cultivation would have regressed to the middle stage of the Golden Core Elm, and I couldn't be contaminated with too much killing karma. Otherwise there would be no need to go to so much trouble. Well, yes, the physical body of Shanshai Fang is so different from that of the master. It's like the difference between heaven and earth. The woman nodded and said, But to obtain the throne of human emperor, everything is worth it. As long as I seize the national destiny and dragon veins of the 4 kingdoms of Great Yan, Great Khan, Beiyu, and Northern Yan, I will be worthy enough to compete for the throne of human emperor. From then on, I will enjoy the offerings of all races and the power of the entire world. With the imperial decree, I will be able to appoint human priests and control the entire human world. At this point, the man's expression remained calm, but his eyes were filled with uncontrollable excitement. The woman also hurriedly bowed and saluted. Your Majesty, this is the destiny of heaven. You will surely ascend to the throne of human emperor. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, it was the day of the new emperor's enthronement. Overcast clouds covered the capital, but in Kingsao City far to the west, the sky was clear and the sun was shining brightly. In his old house, Wei Yi was putting the finishing touches and polishing on the 2 swords he had forged yesterday. One had a broad, strong blade, while the other had a slender blade with soft delicate lines. But both swords were truly extraordinary, their radiance radiating, their sharpness imposing. Holding them in his hands, he felt as if they could breathe, a faint aura lingering within them. After completing the final polishing and decoration of the swords, Wei Yi returned to his room with both swords. He placed them on his desk, then took a brush and inscribed them on each. Using the ingenious technique of penetrating 3 inches into the wood, he inscribed the name of the broad-bladed sword, Ganjiang, and on the slender graceful sword, he inscribed its name, Mo Yi. Yet, as Wei Yi bestowed the names, he felt the swords respond. Their blades vibrated slightly, emitting a gentle hum. Ganjiang's melody was powerful and profound, while Moyi's was crisp and melodious. After naming them, Wei Yi grasped a brush in each hand. Using the ingenious technique of penetrating 3 inches into the wood, he simultaneously inscribed Li Bei's ancient-style poem on each sword. Swords resemble twin dragons. Snowflakes illuminate lotus flowers. Brilliant light pierces heaven and earth. Thunderous thunder unstoppable. Once I left, I bid farewell to the golden box, lost in the fleeting trance. Feng Hu has long been dead, so he remains hidden. The Wu River is 1,000 feet deep. The Chu Mountains 1,000 layers high. Male and female will never be separated. The divine will meet. The moment the poem was completed, bursts of dragon roars echoed in his ears. Wisps of light converged into the swords, transforming the 2 swords into thunder on the horizon. Dazzling. Chapter 145. Flying Sword. Subscribe. As the light gathered, Wei Yi felt a surge of immense power from heaven and earth. It evoked a sense of might and sword intent like mountains and rivers. In a trance, Wei Yi imagined seeing the mighty rivers winding through the mountains, flowing endlessly and mightily, like a mighty dragon, domed within those peaks. The next second, the 2 swords vibrated slightly, resonating with each other. A surge of immense sword energy permeated. Wei Yi imagined 2 dragons, one male and one female, entwined and swirling, soaring into the sky, roaring and surging through the sea of clouds. They shook the earth. Finally, they transformed into 2 terrifying silver streaks, streaking across the sky and ripping through the air. Meanwhile, in front of the imperial palace, Shanshai and Fang, under the gaze of a vast court of civil and military officials, accepted the coronation of Emperor Yanjing. The moment the golden crown, symbolizing the emperor's majesty, was placed upon his head, Shanshai and Fang felt the dynasty's destiny, like flowing streams. From all directions, the energy converged on him, making him feel as comfortable as a spring breeze. Of course, this was only a tiny fraction of the nation's destiny. To truly control and seize a nation's destiny, simply becoming emperor was not enough. But at that moment, a sudden thunderclap erupted in the sky, shaking the heavens and earth. Shanshai and Fang vaguely thought he saw a silver dragon flash through the clouds, then vanish. Then, it was like a dazzling bolt of lightning streaking across the sky. However, with this thunderclap, the flow of national destiny that had been converging towards him was suddenly cut off by an invisible force, dispersing into the world. Seeing this, Shanshai and Fang's expression changed, and a hint of surprise flashed in his calm eyes, and his brow furrowed slightly. Damn it! Who has interrupted my destiny? Shanshai and Fang was furious, his face growing even colder. The thunderclap had also caused a slight commotion among the civil and military officials below. However, the dark clouds and thunderous roars in the sky were perfectly normal. However, for some reason, they felt a strange pressure descending from the heavens. A powerful sword intent gathered in the sky, only to dissipate after a long moment. Wei Yi's consciousness returned to reality, and he was surprised to find the 2 swords suspended in midair. Connected end to end, they circled around him. Amazing. I've really created a flying sword. Wei Yi's heart sank with excitement, his face filled with surprise. He knew full well that the 2 swords before him could truly be called flying swords. After all, a cultivator's flying sword is actually a magical weapon. Its materials and properties are no different from those of a normal sword. In fact, its mechanical properties are probably comparable to those of a 5, 7 or 9 beaded sword. It's simply because the cultivator's weapon refiners, versed in rune formations, have inscribed these rune formations within the swords. The precious sword becomes a magical flying sword. With a simple push of mana, a cultivator can soar into the sky and kill from afar. As for the legendary spirit sword, which possesses spirituality, capable of autonomous flight, automatic killing, and even self-protection without the need for mana, it is not something that can be forged by human hands. It requires a blessing of extraordinary beings nurtured by heaven and earth, as well as a certain kind of opportunity to be born. Much like rocks and plants transforming into spirits through chance, some flying swords are transformed into spirit swords through the nurturing power and influence of the Dao by a master. Spirit swords possess inherent mana and self-awareness. They can absorb the power of heaven and earth, the essence of the sun and moon, to enhance themselves. Even without a master's control, they can soar, unleashing their might and sword intent. They can truly take heads from thousands of miles away. Of course, for a highly accomplished cultivator, even an ordinary iron sword or even a plant can be harnessed through mana, imbued with the power of a flying sword. But the swords themselves couldn't be considered flying swords. Wei Yi's Ganjiang and Mo swords, however, were deeply engraved, drawing upon the power of the laws of heaven and earth to condense the poetic realm. This imbued them with a powerful sword spirit and the ability to fly, harnessing the power of heaven and earth. However, they lacked inherent intelligence and were unable to absorb the power of heaven and earth for self-improvement. They still relied on Wei Yi's brushstrokes and his own thoughts to control their flight. Therefore, they hadn't yet reached the level of spiritual swords. However, they could definitely be called flying swords. Of course, this result already satisfied Wei Yi greatly. While Wei Yi's mastery of swordsmithing techniques did include some techniques that could potentially create a spiritual sword, that was only a probability. The outcome couldn't be fully controlled. Furthermore, the materials required were even more demanding and precious. Besides using spiritual iron and black gold, materials nurtured by heaven and earth and unavailable in the secular world, the flames used were also highly demanding, requiring an extraordinary fire, similar to the exotic fires found in fantasy novels. Using ordinary fire and materials, like he did this time, it was completely impossible to forge a sword with such spiritual power. If his brushwork hadn't reached this level, he probably wouldn't have been able to write this poem, and certainly not be able to transform these two swords into flying swords. With a thought, Wei Yi's two swords instantly flew around him, soaring straight up, swooping down, zigzagging, and dancing with incredible speed and agility. Wei Yi was having a blast playing with them. It felt like playing with those model airplanes he played with for ages as a child. Suddenly owning a truly remote-controlled airplane was such a joy. He couldn't put it down. Of course, it did use up a bit of battery power. That was the spirit of the brushwork. Wei Yi's gains over the past few days had been quite substantial. The very next night after his cooking skill leveled up, his winner making skill had reached the required level. A day later, his animal taming skill also advanced. Not only that, last night, while soaking in the hot springs with Guyu in his new home, he had already maximumed out his bedroom skills. Both his winner making and beast taming skills had reached level 5, and his bedroom skills had reached level 3. With his winner making skill upgrade, Wei Yi gained a magical power called Everyone is Drunk, I'm Alone Sober. As the name suggests, this power allows someone to be put into a state of anesthesia. Furthermore, it can be done silently, without the other party's awareness. This power has many uses, from combat for crowd control to assisting assassinations. It can also be used medically, administering anesthesia to treat illnesses while the person is asleep. Of course, it can also be used for some ruthless acts. So, power is a double-edged sword. Good and evil depend entirely on the wielder's will. Of course, in addition to gaining this magical power, he also gained new skills in winner making. This upgrade granted Wei Yi access to more powerful recipes for medicinal wines and the ability to brew jade dew. This nectar, in particular, is truly the finest of wines, a truly exceptional brew that cannot be brewed from ordinary grains or fruits. Chapter 146 Cultivation Skills. Therefore, the ingredients needed to brew nectar and jade dew aren't just ordinary grains and fruits. Instead, they used to extremely rare, demanding growing conditions and low-yielding grains, golden brown rice and jade millet. They also use a similarly low-yielding fruit called crystal fruit. This brew is created through a unique brewing process and blending method. But to Wei Yi's surprise, in addition to the brewing method, he also gained impressive cultivation and breeding skills. These included learning how to increase vegetation survival and yield through grafting and hybridization, and how to cultivate superior seeds. These skills also included how to cultivate golden brown rice, jade millet, and crystal fruit to improve their survival and yield. He also unlocked a new daily skill, cultivation. Cultivation skill, level 2, 88% proficiency needed to level up. After unlocking this skill, Wei Yi planted a few pots of flowers at home, and discovered that it indeed improved his proficiency. Wei Yi also found this skill quite useful. After all, creating more potent medicinal wines and medicated foods, and even refining elixirs like those used by cultivators, or rely on various botanical herbs. Many of these powerful herbs are inherently rare. Purchasing them isn't always possible, requiring specialized channels. Some are even completely unattainable. If I could acquire powerful cultivation techniques in the future and cultivate these rare herbs in bulk, I'd truly possess a treasure trove. Whether I made money or not, I definitely have the freedom to make elixirs for myself and my family. It's a good idea to think about it while others spend money on them. After upgrading his beast taming skill, Wei Yi unlocked a new ability, Beast Fusion. As the name suggests, Wei Yi can merge with his contracted beast in battle. After merging with the beast, he not only gains full control of the beast's abilities, but also amplifies them to a certain degree, creating a truly 1+1 effect. For example, after merging with Guyu, Wei Yi would possess her cultivation and magical powers. In fact, when he unleashed her magical powers, they would be even more powerful than her own, due to the added power of his own strength. He could also leverage her mana and strength to unleash his own existing magical powers, significantly increasing their power. This gave Wei Yi another trump card, a way to gain even greater power. If Guyu's cultivation and mana increased, it would also benefit him. Although Wei Yi didn't cultivate true ki and blood energy, as long as his contracted beast cultivated true ki and blood energy, it would be essentially equivalent to his own cultivation. Furthermore, after upgrading his bedroom skills, Wei Yi indeed gained the ability to control the absorption of yin and replenish yang. This new magical power, called mutual sharing, was an upgraded version of the absorption of yin and replenishing yang. In addition to absorbing a single item, one could also choose to return it to the other party. As the name suggests, mutual sharing simply means a complementary ability. One can draw on the other's strengths to supplement one's own deficiencies, absorbing the other's energy that one lacks, replenishing oneself. At the same time, he channeled the energy that the other lacked, while he had an excess of. This allowed both to benefit, achieving a perfect complementarity. After controlling the two flying swords for a while, Wei Yi finally retracted them with great enthusiasm. He then used the ingenious technique of penetrating into wood 3 points to further enhance the performance and attributes of the two swords. After completing this, he began crafting a sword case to hold his 3 swords. The creation of a sword case involves carpentry skills and even simple mechanical structures. Wei Yi had not yet unlocked the carpentry skill, so he invited the city's most famous carpenter to help him build the sword case. This carpenter was well known to Wei Yi, having previously consulted him for restaurant renovations and new furniture for his home. So when Wei Yi asked him to teach him how to make a sword case, the carpenter didn't refuse and even taught Wei Yi very attentively. After all, in his eyes, Wei Yi was a hero in King's House City, and given his status, he naturally didn't want to compete with him for business. Thus, Wei Yi successfully unlocked the carpentry skill. Carving actually shares similarities with carpentry, making it quite easy for Wei Yi to learn. Furthermore, while crafting the sword case, he was also simultaneously improving his proficiency in both carpentry and carving. Emperor Yanshan's official enthronement was little more than a topic of conversation for the distant citizens of King's House City. It seemed to have no impact or change on their lives. However, with the increasing tension on the border, trade was significantly impacted. Foreign merchants and travelers to King's House City decreased significantly, impacting the hotel and accommodation industry. 3 days after Emperor Yanshan's enthronement, war broke out on the western border. The news quickly spread to King's House City, sending shockwaves throughout the city and casting a pall of anxiety and panic over the residents. Although wars and conflicts, both large and small, had frequently erupted on the border before, they had never truly affected King's House City. However, any war meant significantly increased taxes and even conscription, significantly impacting their lives, especially for the common people. If the fighting only lasted a month or two, it would be fine. But if it became a regular occurrence, it would inevitably increase the burden on everyone. More importantly, they feared the border would be lost, and King's House City would suffer the consequences. After all, the Great Yan dynasty was no longer as powerful as it once was. They had little faith in their own nation. They were even more worried that the new emperor, seeking stability, would simply cede territory in exchange for peace, abandoning their border town. Although the Jingan Prince's palace was also in Kingshao City, he had another palace in the capital as well as here. To put it bluntly, if they were defeated and forced to cede territory in exchange for peace, they could simply relocate their entire family and still survive. But ordinary people couldn't afford that. Life as refugees would be difficult. Even the wealthy families and merchants would likely lose half their lives and most of their wealth. Therefore, whenever a war breaks out, the common people are the ones most afraid. As the war unfolded, troops from all of Kingshao and Sichuan Prefecture were gradually transferred to the border to reinforce them. The government office also issued a wartime call for money, food, medicinal herbs, ironware, and other supplies. Craftsmen, doctors, and other personnel were also called up to assist on the front lines. Several blacksmiths from the Wei family ironware shop were drafted to the front lines. In addition to paying taxes, Wei Yi also donated a considerable amount of supplies and medicinal wine. After all, he knew that only unity could resist the enemy at this time. Those soldiers had sacrificed their lives at the border, defending the country and their homes. Naturally, they couldn't just stand by and watch. They had to contribute whatever they could. However, to everyone's surprise, just 6 days after the border battle began, Yunding Hao, who had been sent to reinforce Yukshan Pass, suddenly launched a mutiny in Yunzhou and quickly seized control of the entire province. He led his army from the southwest, capturing several cities one after another, and was now heading towards Kingshao City. Chapter 147, The Tricks of the Celestial Beings. Overnight, many wealthy families fled Kingshao City, taking their wealth with them. Many shops also closed. Some panicked citizens chose to temporarily leave Kingshao, while others stayed, praying for safety from the disaster. The once bustling city of Kingshao became utterly desolate and deserted. The streets were practically deserted, with only the frantic guards scurrying about. Most of the Wei family shops were also closed, with only the main restaurant remaining open. Wei Yi, after all, wasn't panicking at all. He closed simply because there were no customers, and there was no need to open. He wanted to allow his employees to return home and care for their families, and also to prevent anyone from taking advantage of the situation. After all, special times call for special treatment. But while the main restaurant was open, it was nearly empty. The employees' faces were filled with panic and worry, each one looking distraught. Don't worry, everyone. Trust me, Kingshao City will be fine. Seeing the employees' expressions, Wei Yi offered reassurance. Boss, almost all the troops in Kingshao have been deployed to the border. How can we defend Kingshao City? A waiter asked worriedly. Yes, with the few defenders left in the city, I'm afraid. Although most of the troops have been deployed to the border, there are still warriors from the Jingan Palace, the General's Mansion, so many gangs, and of course, me. Wei Yi emphasized the last half of his sentence. Hearing Wei Yi's words, everyone felt reassured. Recalling the Shinran cult's grand attempt to establish a Taoist temple and expand its influence in Kingshao City, only to be defeated by Wei Yi, they still harbored some hope for Wei Yi's words. They naturally hoped that Kingshao City could be defended, and that peace could return. However, the current situation did not give much hope. In fact, Wei Yi knew about the Yunding Hao mutiny earlier than most people in the city. After all, the Xiangsha Alliance's intelligence network was extremely timely and well informed. That same day, they convened all members of the Xiangsha Alliance to discuss how to respond to this crisis. While this should have been a matter for the government, outside the jurisdiction of the Xiangsha Alliance, Mr. Gong deduced that this so-called mutiny was another staged, and orchestrated stunt by the Shinran cult. This wasn't the first time the Shinran cult had employed such tactics. Early in their arrival in the Great Yan dynasty, they sought to occupy and control Zhuzhou City. However, they encountered significant resistance from local officials and powerful factions. The Zhuzhou general was among those who opposed the Shinran cult. However, 6 months later, the Zhuzhou deputy general assassinated the general and launched a sudden mutiny. They captured and seized the city, beheading local officials and numerous powerful faction leaders. The city was awash in blood. The mutiny was ultimately suppressed, and an investigation revealed that the deputy general had been manipulated by evil cultivators, leading to his catastrophic blunder. He was subsequently dismissed. 2 years later, however, due to the war in the south, he was reinstated, and now serves as Zhuzhou's general. Mr. Gong therefore suspected they were using a familiar tactic again. As in Zhuzhou, they sought to control Qingzhou City, but were met with a fierce counterattack. So, they planned to destroy it, and then rebuild it. Using the pretext of mutiny, they would directly massacre Qingzhou City, and eliminate all the existing forces. Then, they would take over the city, re-establish a ruling class, establish order, and build their own power. This way, they could easily control the city. Wei Yi thought Mr. Gong's words made sense. This might be the next move of the Shanren sect. His previous elimination of Wangan, Jiang Siren, and the others had made them realize that the major forces entrenched in Qingzhou City were difficult to deal with, and that the waters were deep. The Shanren sect was in the open, while Wei Yi and the others were in the dark, putting the Shanren sect in a difficult position. They couldn't indiscriminately kill innocent people in the name of their sect, and would rather kill the wrong person than let them go. So, they simply drained the pond to catch fish, even at the cost of destroying an entire city. After all, this was the simplest and most brutal method. It also wouldn't damage their sect's reputation. Then, they could let Yundinghao or the evil cultivator take the blame, and the matter would be over. This is similar to how, in his previous life, whenever something went wrong, it was always the fault of temporary workers and outsourced personnel. Perhaps the credit for quelling the rebellion and eradicating the evil cultivators will even be attributed to the Shanren sect. Unaware of the truth, the common people might genuinely be grateful to them, believing they brought peace. In reality, it was all just a self-directed drama staged by the Shanren sect. Wei Yi was familiar with this tactic. Some so-called great powers in his previous life also frequently employed it. It's likely that Yundinghao will ultimately live in peace, reap numerous benefits, and enjoy a peaceful retirement. Therefore, the current crisis facing Qingzhou City is no longer solely a matter for the government. It concerns all factions within the city, and they must unite to stop Yundinghao's army. Otherwise, they face possible destruction. Counting on imperial reinforcement is simply impossible. If this is a Shanren sect conspiracy, even if reinforcement arrive, they likely won't arrive until Qingzhou City is completely captured. As for the Zhao family's troops, they are currently engaged in a border battle and can't return. Even if they did, it would be too late. Therefore, for now, Qingzhou City could only rely on the combined defenses of the Xiangsha Alliance, the Jinggan Palace, the General's Mansion, and the Patrol Battalion. Fortunately, the leaders of the major factions within the Xiangsha Alliance were resolute and committed to fighting to the bitter end. So, Wei Yi and his men devised a plan. Wei Yi would lead the decapitation operation, while the others would defend the city. In Shangyang City, at the Shanren Taoist temple, Elder Hui Kang gazed at the 20 Shanren disciples below and said, "Our mission this time is to massacre the Jinggan Palace and retrieve the mountain and river map the sect master needs." These disciples present were the elite of the Shanren sect. The weakest among them was at the early foundation establishment stage, while 2 had even reached the early golden core stage. Once the Yunding Marquis army has entered Qingzhou City, we'll take advantage of the chaos and seal off the entire mansion with a formation. We absolutely cannot leave anyone alive, let alone be seen. The strongest fighter in Prince Jinggan's mansion right now is the old prince. Although he once reached the level of a second rank warrior, he's now advanced in age, and only around the 3rd rank. Killing him won't be difficult. After this is accomplished, you will all follow me to Xuanzang Mountain and await the opening of the secret realm. Yes, Elder. The disciples bowed and responded in unison. Come on, change your clothes, and follow me to Qingzhou City. Elder Hui Kang said again. Yes. Everyone bowed and quickly left the room. Seeing the disciples leave, Elder Hui Kang narrowed his eyes, his gaze growing even colder. HMPH, this time, I'm going to see just how many fish are in the water in Qingzhou City. Chapter 148, Enemy at the Gate. The gates of Qingzhou City were locked, and soldiers stood guard, ready for battle. The biting cold wind sent them shivering. To say they weren't afraid would be a lie. Everyone feared death. And once war arrived, it would be a life or death struggle. Furthermore, they knew that Yunding Hao's army outnumbered theirs by dozens. Even if they were the defenders, they could only fight a desperate battle. King's Hao City was undefendable. But as defenders, they had to hold on, no matter how frightened they were. They had so many civilians behind them, their families, and their friends. Furthermore, this was their mission and duty as defenders. If they deserted, how could they face their families and friends? They would be embarrassed to face their elders in the afterlife. So, even if they died in battle, it was a worthy death. Of course, most soldiers didn't dwell on such thoughts. They simply understood that orders were paramount, and life and death took a backseat. As long as they were there, the enemy couldn't easily enter. It was that simple. Soon after, scouts returned with news. Yunding Hao's army had already set up camp near the Qingshu River, 3 miles away, with at least 50,000 men. Upon hearing this news, the patrol battalion commander, Lin Fei, Lieutenant General Li Yu, and a number of other commanders grew even more solemn. They had finally arrived. Now that they had set up camp, they were preparing for the siege. This meant they were likely to attack tonight. Furthermore, the enemy had at least 50,000 men. Their patrol battalion, combined with the soldiers from the various city households, numbered less than 1,000. Against a nighttime assault by 50,000 men, it was uncertain whether 1,000 men could hold their own until dawn. News of Yunding Hao's army's arrival quickly spread throughout the city. Panic erupted, and the atmosphere within the city grew even more oppressive. Everyone hid in their homes, bewildered and uncertain of what the next day would bring. Fear was rife. Compared to most of the city, Wei Yi and Wei King were not particularly alarmed. Yet, he remained somewhat concerned about the war at the border, and about Wei Tieshan. In fact, upon hearing of the border conflict, Wei Yi had planned to wait for an opportunity. If the situation there proved dire, he would have gone to help. However, a few days later, he heard of the Yunding Hao mutiny. So, he had to stay behind temporarily to stabilize the rear. He also believed that Prince Jinggan's army wouldn't be defeated so easily. Otherwise, the Zhao family would have ceased to exist long ago. The Zhao family had defended the western border of the Great Yan dynasty for so many years, a reputation well earned. Zhao Jinsi had also said that his brother was sure he could hold the border. However, after resolving the crisis in King's Hao City, Wei Yi still planned to visit the border to help completely eliminate the invading enemy forces. He would also visit his second uncle. After all, only with peace at the border could King's Hao City truly be stable. Only then would his aunt and sister be at ease. Then, he could seize the opportunity to ask Prince Jinggan for his second uncle's return. Then, the family could truly be reunited. Inside a hall in Prince Jinggan's mansion, the Zhao family gathered to discuss the impending battle in King's Hao City. In reality, it wasn't so much a battle for King's Hao City as it was a battle for their own family. While others might not understand, old Prince Zhao Yingshan understood it better than anyone else. This was a conspiracy against their family. No, it was already an overt conspiracy. Upon ascending the throne, the new emperor summoned the Zhao family's strongest member to the capital, where he had yet to return. Meanwhile, a border war broke out, pinning the Zhao army down. All forces within King's Hao were diverted to the border to provide support. The Yunding Marquis, who hadn't revolted earlier or later, chose this very moment. Moreover, a mere Yunding Marquis had no standing, let alone reason, to launch a mutiny. It was sheer self-destruction. Instead of attacking the more easily captured cities to the south, they trekked all the way west to attack King's Hao City, where their powerful members were stationed. This simply didn't make sense. It was clearly a conspiracy by the Shinran cult. While the attack on King's Hao City might seem like a direct attack on the Zhao family, it's actually aimed at the Zhao family. Zhao Yingshan's face was solemn and his heart was heavy. While the Zhao family possessed many powerful warriors, and despite his age, he had once been a second-rank warrior, his combat prowess was still immense. While he couldn't be said to be a single man standing against 1,000, he was certainly capable of taking the head of an enemy general from within a vast army. But Zhao Yingshan knew clearly that the Yunding Marquis couldn't possibly be unaware of the current caliber of the Zhao family's formidable warriors. Or rather, the Shinran sect couldn't possibly be unaware. With such a large-scale plan, they couldn't possibly be without adequate preparation. Therefore, this arrival was definitely not just the Yunding Marquis's army. Xianren sect cultivators were undoubtedly hidden among them, perhaps even within King's House City itself, waiting for the right moment to strike and deal with the Zhao family's warriors. This was a disaster not only for King's House City, but also for the Zhao family itself. The Xianren sect has finally given up their patience and taken action, Zhao Yingshan declared. But the Zhao family naturally couldn't just sit there and wait for death. If the Xianren cult dared to attack, the Zhao family would fight to the death to show them that the Yan dynasty's top martial arts families were no pushovers. If they tried to eliminate the Zhao family, the Xianren cult would pay a heavy price. Those discussing countermeasures with Zhao Yingshan were all adult men of the Zhao family. The women were not involved. So, Zhao Jinsi was quietly writing in her study. Her heart was calmer than anyone else in the Zhao family. As a member of the Zhao family, she was naturally as capable as any man, possessing a strong heart that defied all odds. She also believed in her family's strength, and even more so in Wei Yi, the Confucian Academy of King's House City, and the members of the Xianxia Alliance. She still remembered the sword strike that split the sea of clouds. She was confident that Wei Yi had the power to turn the tide. Moreover, with so many people standing together, she had nothing to fear. That afternoon, after the barracks were built, Yunding Hao's eldest son, Zhao Gao, led a mighty army of 30,000 men on a march toward King's House City. Although their plan was to attack the city at night, pre-battle psychological warfare was still necessary. The mere visual pressure and intimidation of their tens of thousands of troops approaching the city would be enough to shatter their morale. A bit of trash talk and intimidation, the combined force of tens of thousands, would likely scare the defenders to death. Perhaps they could even surrender without a fight. This would save them considerable effort, allowing them to focus on slaughtering the city's gangs and looting its treasury. Zhao Gao pondered this. Soon, King's House City came into view. A sneer curled his lips, and he immediately ordered his troops to accelerate their advance. Meanwhile, the defenders atop the city walls naturally saw the mighty army approaching from afar. The dense, black mass of figures, like a flood of beasts, surged forward like a dark cloud from the horizon. It truly instilled immense pressure and intimidation within them. It made them feel cold in their hearts, as if the cold wind was even more biting. Chapter 149, Common Enemy. On the city walls, besides the soldiers from the patrol battalion, guards from the general's mansion, Prince Chingan's mansion, and the government office had also arrived to provide support. Furthermore, members of the city's martial arts families, such as the Jiuo and Yu families, and martial artists from their respective sects, had also arrived to lend their support. Of course, most of these individuals were members of the Xianxia Alliance. Even so, their combined numbers numbered no more than 1,000. Archers, prepare for battle. The patrol battalion leader shouted sternly. But the archers' hands trembled slightly as they gripped their bows. To say they weren't afraid would be a lie. Anyone witnessing the approaching, flood-like army would be filled with fear, especially given their small numbers. Other soldiers were still frantically carrying stones and logs onto the city walls, frantically preparing for battle. Jiuo Dayan, Yu Zhengang, and others also stood on the city walls, chatting as they watched the approaching army. The warriors from various families also wore solemn expressions, their right hands gripping the swords at their waists. Although each of them could fight 10, or even 100, one man at a time, they couldn't help but feel a little nervous at the sight of the approaching army of tens of thousands. Just then, several young men came running up. Dad. They looked at Yu Zhengang and called out, then ran over. What are you guys doing here? Yu Zhengang sneered. Dad, we are you family men too. Why can't we come? We want to fight alongside you. The young Yus looked determined. Just don't cause us any trouble. Go back. Yu Zhengang shouted. If we don't go back, if the city gate is breached, we won't survive. Since we are going to die anyway, we might as well kill as many enemies as possible. Listening to the young Yus words, Jiuo Dayan smiled and said, well said, brother Yu. You Yus are very brave. As he spoke, the roar of the tens of thousands of soldiers, like rolling thunder, echoed from afar. The sound shook the whole area, and the momentum was overwhelming. He. This overwhelming roar made the defenders on the city wall look even more grim, and a wave of fear crept into their hearts. Several of the Yu family's young men's expressions changed drastically, staring blankly at the approaching army of tens of thousands, their faces darkening. Dad, you're right. We shouldn't be here to cause you any more trouble. Yes, we'll go back and protect mother. The Yu family's young men bowed and quickly ran down the city wall. Seeing this, Yu Zhenggang's mouth twitched, and he glanced awkwardly at Jiuo Dayan beside him. Shortly after the Yu family's young men left, the surrounding warriors began to stir again. Someone shouted, "Look, the students from King Feng Academy are here." Everyone looked in the direction of the voice and saw, as expected, Su Zhe and a group of students ascending the steps behind the city wall. What are these scholars doing here? Yeah, a bunch of weak scholars who can't even lift a sword. What are they doing here? Are they trying to cause trouble? Don't say that. These scholars have the courage to come here, and that's something we admire. They are true scholars. They can't just be full of knowledge and talk big. In a truly critical moment, they have the courage to face the enemy and take up arms. Only then can they live up to the teachings of the sages. That's right. We must unite at this time. Even the smallest force is still strength. And the arrival of these scholars will boost the morale of the defenders. Dad, isn't that King? Isn't that Big Brother? A young warrior beside Yu Zhengang pointed at Yu Qingdian behind Su Zhe and said. He was the second son of the Yu family, Yu Qingsu. Yu Zhengang nodded, but said nothing. Although his son couldn't practice martial arts, he was passionate about reading and writing, and his personality was relatively cowardly. Today, he had the courage to come and fight alongside them. He was truly worthy of being a man of the Yu family. Su Zhe led a group of students to the city wall, accompanied by Zhao Jinsi and Lin Zuna. Du Shaoling was temporarily out of town and hadn't returned, so he was temporarily managing the academy. Su Zhe had brought his men here because he had received news from Wei Yi. However, Wei Yi hadn't asked them to come to him to fight, but to cheer him on. Wei Yi and Gu Yu were sitting in a carriage parked on the side of the road. Wei Yi carried a sword case on his back, shrouded in a cyan robe and a mask. The carriage contained numerous scrolls. "Xiao Yu, come on, let's unite," Wei Yi said gravely. As Zhao Gao's army approached Kingsao City, they temporarily halted their advance and issued a general challenge. First, they aimed to weaken the defenders, putting pressure on them and disrupting their formation. Haha, with our momentum alone, we can beat those defenders half to death. Zhao Gao laughed from his horse. The deputy general beside him stroked his beard and said with a smile, "General, I don't think we need to wait until dark. Let's attack now, before those rats in the city hide in the darkness, and it's hard for us to find them." Well, wait a little longer, scare the living daylight out of them first, then order the attack. Zhao Gao sneered. The deputy general immediately ordered the entire army to shout and kill, without a single shout, taking a step forward. "Kill, kill." Tens of thousands of troops shouted in unison, the momentum and sound like raging waves in a storm, constantly crashing against the city walls. The soldiers' faces were extremely grim, and they felt like their hearts were about to jump out of their throats. But at this moment, Su She shouted, "All students of King Feng Academy, listen up, recite together. Draw the bow with a strong bow, use the long arrow. Shoot the horse first when shooting a man, and capture the leader first when capturing a thief." Su She shouted loudly. The students immediately recited in unison, "Draw the bow with strength, use the arrow with length. Shoot the horse first, capture the leader first." They recited over and over again. Though their numbers far outnumbered the enemy's tens of thousands, they were equally imposing. Furthermore, as they recited, a strange aura seemed to slowly gather in the surrounding void, and invisible forces converged on the city walls. The archers felt the chill dissipate, and a warmth emerged within them. It transformed into an invisible force, coursing through their bodies, making their blood boil. Their bodies surged with strength, filled with high morale, and brimming with passion. Fear vanished. A fierce fighting spirit surged, filling them with confidence, strength, fearlessness, and omnipotence. Not only the archers, but nearly everyone present, felt this strange aura. They felt the overwhelming fighting spirit rising within them, and their bodies seemed to be filled with unprecedented power. "Feel it?" Yu Zhengang looked at Jiuo Dayan. Jiuo Dayan nodded. What's going on? Are those students? Not just Yu Zhengang and Ji Yuodayan, but all the warriors present looked at each other, each seeing the surprise and excitement in the other's eyes. Finally, everyone's eyes turned to the group of students. Chapter 150, Divine Bird. Subscribe. At that moment, an archer beside Lieutenant General Li Yu, spurred on by this extraordinary fighting spirit, could no longer resist drawing his bow and drawing an arrow. Aiming at the approaching enemy, he released an arrow. The moment the arrow flew out, the air shrieked, instantly drawing the attention of Li Yu and those nearby. The arrow, reflecting the sunlight, transformed into a streak of light, hurtled straight towards the enemy. In reality, the enemy was not even within range. Logically, his arrow would have missed them. However, to Li Yu and the others' surprise, the arrow actually struck the enemy. Someone was hit, and chaos erupted in the ranks. Seeing this, Li Yu and the archer beside him were both astonished. I think I hit it. This is incredible. The archer exclaimed excitedly. He glanced at the students reciting aloud nearby, a look of disbelief. Come, let me shoot. Li Yu took a bow from a nearby archer, quickly knocked it, aimed at a flag bearer in front of the enemy line, and drew his bow to full strength. Suddenly, he felt as if the wind whistled in his ears, as if some strange air current was converging on the arrow. The feeling was profoundly mysterious. He mentally followed the recitation, silently chanting along with the words, "Draw the bow with strength, wield the arrow with length." As soon as the poem was finished, he released the arrow. With a whoosh, the arrow transformed into a stream of light, hurtling straight towards the enemy. The next moment, the enemy flag bearer fell, and the banner he held toppled with it, sending the army into chaos again. I really hit it. Li Yu's face was filled with surprise, and he immediately glanced at the students nearby. This is incredible. What on earth is going on? Although Li Yu couldn't understand what was happening, he was certain that the poem the students were reciting must have a profound meaning. Everyone, listen up. Prepare to shoot. Li Yu regained his composure and shouted loudly. At his command, the archers, already overcome with passion, drew their bows and drew their arrows, ready to fire. At the same moment, the enemy troops, which had been advancing in the distance, suddenly paused, their shouts fading. A lieutenant at the front of the formation looked in the direction of the fallen flag with some surprise and asked, "What's going on over there? It looks like someone's been shot. How is that possible? From this distance, arrows can't reach here," the lieutenant said, a look of amazement on his face. But before he could finish his words, the sound of countless arrows piercing the air resounded, and a rain of arrows descended upon them, seemingly riding the howling north wind. Fuck. The lieutenant's face paled, and he immediately shouted for defense. The soldiers erupted in panic, their shields raised. But the arrows seemed to have eyes, and most of them pierced through the gaps between their shields, piercing the enemy's ranks at an angle, instantly felling a large number of them. Though the lieutenant tried desperately to block the attack, he was still struck by an arrow. Though not fatal, it felt like half his blood and his original momentum had been instantly drained. He ignored the arrow lodged in his body, and hurried to report. How did they manage to shoot from such a distance? Zhao Gao was stunned upon hearing this news. He had initially mocked them, saying they were truly frightened by their ability to fire arrows from such a distance. Unexpectedly, those arrows actually reached their ranks, killing many. Even his own lieutenant was pierced by an arrow. This result truly shocked Zhao Gao. It also irritated him utterly, and he shouted, "Order all troops, attack." But before he could finish his words, a sharp bird cry echoed from the sky, resonating across the heavens and earth. Looking in the direction of the sound, Zhao Gao saw a gigantic bird with iridescent feathers, shrouded in a rainbow of light, soaring over King's House City. Seeing this, Zhao Gao's eyes widened, his face filled with shock. He had never seen that enormous bird before, and yet it was truly extraordinary, like a legendary divine bird. How could such an extraordinary bird appear here? But judging by its appearance, perhaps it was an auspicious sign. Zhao Gao's shocked face flickered with a hint of a lewd smile. A sudden exclamation of surprise erupted from the army, resembling the roar of a mountain and a tsunami. Almost simultaneously, everyone's gaze turned to the extraordinary iridescent bird. For a moment, they stood stunned and stunned. Meanwhile, those on the city wall simultaneously gazed at the enormous bird soaring overhead. Even Susha and the other students were stunned, forgetting to continue reciting their poem. They vaguely discerned a figure perched on the bird's back. The West Lake's white waves shimmer, the leaves sparse, swallows and wild geese begin to fly into the Tang Dynasty clouds. A voice, as if empowered by magical power, resounded like a bell, echoing between heaven and earth. Upon hearing this poem, Susha and the other students erupted in astonishment. They exchanged a look of surprise. They immediately guessed the source of the voice. It was Master Wei. The person on the back of the divine bird was Master Wei. They hadn't expected that the one riding the divine bird would be Wei Yi. The students were thrilled, but they held back. The Confucian Academy's rules mandated confidentiality. Nothing about Confucianism or the masters could be revealed without permission. Furthermore, these students, under Du Shaoling's supervision, were well trained. Despite their excitement, they restrained themselves from shouting or yelling. Tang Yunhan, Yanhan Kuang, the wind howls as the sands roost in the Ziahui River, the loyal scholar mourns the autumn, tears streaming down his face. The voice continued to echo. Simultaneously, the sound of Wei Yi reciting the poem resonated in Suzhi's and all the other students' minds. Suzhi immediately began to recite along. The sun is at the center of the sky. Its light can serve a wise lord. The warrior's anger gives rise to a heroic spirit. How could I obtain the sword of the heavenly sword, so I could cross the sea and slay the whale? How could I obtain the sword of the heavenly sword, so I could cross the sea and slay the whale? Susha led the students to recite aloud. Their expressions were excited, and their voices were high-pitched, converging into an unstoppable momentum of slashing a whale with a sword. It was exciting and awe-inspiring. After reading it once, Susha continued to lead the students to recite it again. Their emotions also infected the people on the city wall. They looked at those students, and vaguely seemed to feel a murderous aura between heaven and earth, and even more like the sound of wind and thunder echoing. I don't know who it was, but they started to recite together. Gradually, others followed suit. The students said a sentence, and they followed it, as if it was an echo. Layer upon layer, it was mighty. Echoing on this city wall, echoing in this King's House city, and echoing between heaven and earth. The people in the city looked up, looked at the sky, and looked at the source of the sound. However, a moment later, a long rainbow shot out from the back of the divine bird. In an instant, it transformed into a huge sword beam, like a divine sword that split the world apart, falling from the sky. The void twisted slightly under the sword beam. Thunder rumbled between heaven and earth, and the wind howled. The mighty sword power poured down, as if the sky was collapsing, or like a million strong troops rushing towards it. It was terrifying and chilling. Seeing the falling sword beam, Zhao Gao's smile instantly collapsed, and his face changed drastically. The hairs on his body stood on end, his legs went weak, and the fear of death instantly rushed to his head. He took out the various life-saving talismans taught to him by the gods without hesitation. He bit his fingers to activate those life-saving talismans, which turned into layer upon layer of light curtains in front of him. Thanks to Princess Harry for the reward of 1000 starting coins, and thank you all for your monthly tickets. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.